1500 Central African time. Your top stories this hour. President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to deliver his fourth State of the Nation address this evening.
Metro rail train passengers travelling between Johannesburg and Randfontein are advised to make alternative transport arrangements today as investigations commence to determine the cause of last night's collision involving two trains.
The power utility Eskom has begun a process to offer managers voluntary severance packages in non-core operations, as well as employees over the age of 60 across the group.
Live from SABC News Studios in Auckland Park, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to the Thursday edition of SA Today on the SABC News channel. Independent and impartial, all eyes in Parliament this evening where the President will be delivering his SONA for 2020. I'm Balesa Chubisi. Good afternoon, Pete.
And I'm Pete Ndora. Thanks so much. Yeah, it is a special day today.
It's a special day indeed. Yeah.
Dressed up more maybe, I don't know.
For the red carpet.
Exactly. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching SA Today.
All right, of course, that's the big story this evening. As I said, all eyes in Parliament on the President this afternoon. So the question that we have to you is, what are your expectations, or what expectations do you have from the President's State of the Nation address for 2020? Would really love to hear from you.
Yes, indeed. You can use the social media platform Twitter, and our Twitter handle is @SAToday. SABC, or you can call us on the number on the screen now, which is 011-714-6841 or 011-714-6842.
We'll certainly be reading your tweets and taking your calls live here on SA Today.
Well, the red carpet has been rolled out at the parliamentary precinct ahead of this evening's State of the Nation address.
The carpet is normally the final touch in getting the precinct ready for the event. President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to start his fourth State of the Nation address at 7 p.m.
Members of Parliament have shared what their expectations are from President Ramaphosa.
We know that the President will speak to how are we going to grow the economy. We know the President is going to speak to how are we going to create jobs for particularly our young people in our country. But again, President will speak to how do we ensure that the state has the necessary requisite capacity and ethical leadership to govern. So that these are the areas that, in my view, the President will focus on, including fighting crime and fighting corruption.
We have been hearing that Eskom is overemployed, that there are many people at Eskom now who should not be there, because when the politicians and the presidents were promising creation of job, they were just adding and adding and adding. So as a result, Eskom is overstaffed. So if they are giving voluntary packages, I think it's a step in the right direction. We must welcome that for as long as they promise. And we want to hear the President express himself. As long as we hear that our brothers and sisters who have been employed, teachers, nurses, and so on, that they are not going to lose their pensions, which would be very, very wrong and would be, I think, criminal.
So now, the economy has been shrinking and shrinking. You cannot change this unless you attract back, first of all, the business investments that were here when we took power. Secondly, if you don't attract back the technical know-how in agriculture, in civil engineering, and so on and so on. All those people that ran away from here, when they realized that they were not welcome, they were not accepted, they took the skills, they took their money, and investors who otherwise were attracted to South Africa because they saw the potential of the economy and of the country, now also stayed away.
Meanwhile, Parliament has called on anyone with proof that there is a plot to smuggle police officers into the National Assembly during the State of the Nation address tonight to provide the evidence.
The AFF has claimed in a statement that there is a plan to get police officers into the National Assembly to violently eject MPs if necessary.
The EFF has threatened to disrupt President Cyril Ramaphosa's speech. The party is insisting that the president should fire Public Enterprises Minister Presidency Gordhan for allegedly misleading the president about the state of affairs at ESCOM.
We will disrupt the SONA because we are demanding that Cyril Ramaphosa fires Pravin Gordhan. Pravin Gordhan, as the Minister of Public Enterprises, has plunged this country into total darkness, literally and even in the economy. We have 50% of the youth that is unemployed now, and Pravin Gordhan is taking care and protecting the interest of the big businesses at the expense of the black poor people who are marginalized in this country. We are demanding that Pravin Gordhan must go so that we can be able to get rid of people like Stephen Koshev of the Investec, who is now in the middle of the decision-making process in this country. He has taken over because Pravin Gordhan has orchestrated that they come in. They are trying to make sure that our SOEs, especially ESCOM, is seen as being failing so that they are going to privatize it.
Now, a group of COSATU members and affiliates have staged a picket at the Grand Parade in Cape Town ahead of tonight's SONA.
Amongst the issues raised is unemployment and the crisis affecting PRASA and Metro Rail. COSATU and the SACP have threatened rolling mass action if President Ramaphosa fails to announce measures to prevent retrenchments at, amongst others, Telkom.
Members of Trade Union Federation COSATU and its affiliates have come together on the Grand Parade opposite City Hall this afternoon ahead of this evening's State of the Nation address by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, a group of vocal activists are behind me, some carrying banners calling for an end to job losses, and others, of course, speaking about the issue affecting the rail service in the Western Cape. Now, joining me is the COSATU Provincial Secretary Marvin de Bruyn. Marvin, good afternoon to you. A number of issues being highlighted by the activists behind us. Can you take us through exactly why you've decided to embark on this picket here today?
Yeah, from COSATU's side, is that this issue has been coming on for years. We've been engaging government on various levels to work on the question of job losses in this country. But what we've seen so far, nothing's happened. People are losing their jobs on a daily basis. There's a bloodbath of people losing their jobs, and I think that's a really concern to us. And we want the President to address this matter in his speech today, but come up with real plans to save jobs in this country.
Well, I also see quite a number of banners calling for an end to corruption. Some of your COSATU affiliates talking about learners being in school and teachers. These are some of the issues that you are particularly concerned about.
Yeah, very much concerned. If you want to take the province per se, you see we've got an overclass problem, less teachers, and we want the province also to address those things. And I think National should intervene to ensure that this province deal with the issue of overclasses, with the question of teachers, that's enough, also with the question of safety security of our teachers in the schools.
Now Malvin, not as big a crowd as we are traditionally used to seeing when COSATU calls a picket or a rally. I understand that you also have plans going forward, but the core message then coming out from this group today would be directed directly at the President, and you mentioned earlier on that you have plans for further action.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, today's march we've applied only for 50 to 100 people, and I think we've reached that target. That's just the beginning of a bigger campaign, because we're coming back on the 20th for a provincial march. We want to bring Cape Town to a standstill because we want to deal with the issue of the train services, the total collapse of the public transport system in this particular province. And we're coming back to Cape Town. We're going to march to Parliament. We're going to march to provincial Parliament. We're going to march to the city of Cape Town. We're going to march to business, and we're going to march to Metro Rail. So that will be the bigger march. We will talk about those issues.
Thank you very much, Melvin de Bruin. Of course, the Provincial Secretary of COSATU in the Western Cape, just talking to us a bit about today's picket ahead of this evening's State of the Nation address by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Some of the issues being highlighted, of course, is the issue of corruption, the issue are affecting the education system, and there are some members of trade union SATU as well, and also a very big issue that has been plaguing the province for quite a while, particularly here in the city of Cape Town, is the ongoing issues and crises facing PRASA and Metro Rail with attacks on the infrastructure, as well as a substandard service being delivered to the people of this province. That's, of course, the events taking place here today, with mention that further action will be taking place come later on this month.
All right, that's Vanessa Puna reporting a little bit earlier on from Cape Town.
To KwaZulu-Natal we go now, where the community of Mpolweni in the Midlands say they're waiting with bated breath for the State of the Nation address.
Residents hope that President Cyril Ramaphosa will address their dire situation after being hit by a tornado in November last year. They want Mpolweni to be declared a disaster area.
This was Baba Neslimba's home. The 75-year-old lived here with 9 other family members. After the tornado, they moved and are now staying with relatives in another village. The windstorm left 2 people dead and scores injured.
We'd be happy if government can provide us with 4-room houses. Because I have grandchildren, they cannot use this house.
The provincial government and NGOs assisted victims with park homes, food and tents. But the homes have no electricity and ablution facilities.
Our area was damaged totally. So I think it will be advisable for our government just to declare this place as a disaster area.
President Ramaphosa, would you please provide us with houses? We no longer have proper shelter due to the tornado that destroyed our home. We don't have financial muscle because we are unemployed.
When the president addresses the nation tonight, the tornado victims will be watching television from their neighbors' homes, hoping for good news. Vusi Khumalo, SABC News, Mpolweni.
All right, so we continue with our State of the Nation address coverage. Let us now take you to Ulundi in KwaZulu-Natal. That is whereby our reporter Vusi Khumalo is standing by. Vusi, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for coming through. But in abantu base-KZN, what are their expectations from the president's speech?
Yebo, abantu bakwaZulu-Natal bathi badinga idingo. The people of KwaZulu-Natal, especially here at Ulundi, say that they need services such as water, electricity, and other bread and butter issues, such as the issues when it comes to the road construction. They want employment. They're saying that most of them here at the area of Ulundi, more than 50% of people are languishing in poverty, and many of them, especially the youth, more than 50% of the youth is unemployed. As we know that the country's got about 29% of the people who are not employed. While we are here at Ulundi, that's under the district of Zululand district municipality. This is an area that was hit hard by the recent storms that took place in November last year. Well, with about more than 10 people who died as a result of the storms-related incidents, including here at Ulundi, where 4 people died as a result of the thunderstorms that took place here. Whereas we know that in KwaZulu-Natal, in November last year, the tornado hit 4 areas. As a result, about 4 people died here and 2 people at Mpolweni, whereby 2 people died as a result, and Utrecht, including Mzimkhulu, where 1 people died. While here at Ulundi, we can still see the effects of the climate change and also the effects of the thunderstorms that took place here. So many houses here are without roofs. Many roofs were blown away they are strewn across this area. People here, I've just spoken to a lady just a while ago. She was saying that they had to make, they had to fork out money from their own pockets to ensure that they've got roof over their heads. The lady there was saying that they were also hoping that when the state president, Cyril Ramaphosa, delivers the State of the Nation address, he will also make a mention of the people living in rural areas as well as the victims of the thunderstorms that took place last year. Well, with me is also one of the storm's victims, Baba Ino Siptelezi, who is here also maybe, he also suffered as a result of the storms that took place. Baba uShenge, sicela nje usithathe usibeke ngesikhathi kwenzeka isibhicongo lapha ekhaya ngoba siyabona emva kwakho iroof ayikho uphahla lokho kwenzeka na sithathe usibeke. Igama nesibongo oqala.
Ino Siptelezi la endaweni yasensukazi inhlekelele yangivelelayo ngisendlini phakathi indlu yasuka yonke nesiphepho eyasuka ngaso ngisendlini nabantwana sabona uphahla selwehla zoshathi naphansi nokho akwaphuma umphefumulo kodwa konakala izinto eziningi ngaphakathi endlini ifurniture ayikho nobe yayisiyinethela kungasekho liphahla phezulu kwanetha kwabola konke sakulahla ngaphandle kwagoqa nongamathayila kwawulahleka ngaphandle ngaleyo mihla leyo nenye futhi yabuyasuka kanjalo yawulala kwenye indawo futhi nayo indlu izindlu nje zasuka lapha zabantathu lapha kuleli ikhaya ngendlela okwasuka ngayo kulezo sibhicongo leso sinesikhalo ke uhulumeni ukuthi asisilungisele ngendlela esicela ngayo ukuthi asenzele konke ngoba indawo yethu ihlupheke kakhulu amanzi asinawo kahle hle imigwaqo ngamaravara emigwaqo ngeke uzohambe namanje nje bafikela nje sebeza nje ngomcacamezelo laba beza enginabo la ngenxa uthi umgwaqo esinawo lapha ayilungisekile ngendlela efanelekileyo sihlupheke kakhulu ngendlela esihlupheke ngawo lapha izinto eziningi ezizidingo esizicelayo lapha endaweni yakithi ukuthi sangathi uhulumeni angake afike asifundisele okunye ngoba nakho ukuphepha lokhu kuguquguquka kwezulu nakho ufuna sifundiseke ngakho ukuthi nxa kuguquguquka izulu yini edala lonto leyo kwenzeka kanje ufuna senze njani ezintweni ezinjengalezo nangogesi lona lokhudlala ngathi ucisha wenza zonke izinto lezi zonke lezo zinto lezo ziyasikhalisa emphakathini nxa sikhona kule ndawo esiyakheleyo sicela uhulumeni ukuthi akathatha amanyathelo ukuthi akabheka ukuthi asilungisele phela njengoba sesihlupheke kangaka ngendlela esihlezi ngayo phakathi kwekhaya siswela izinto eziningi engeyibalule kodwa nje kakhulukazi sicela ukuthi silungise izindlu imigwaqo nokunye ukuthi mhlawumbe nemfuyo yethu ithola amadamu asinalo nedamu lapha endaweni yakithi izinkomo ziyahlupheka sithi sinakho kuyimfuyo kuhamba kuye kude kakhulu nezwe amadamu siyawadinga ukuthi akheke ngaphakathi kwale ndawo yakithi ukuze kukwazi ukuthi kuncedakale umphakathi ngalondlela enjengaleyo.
Okay, siyabonga baba uShenge.
Siyabonga.
Sokwalisa, siyabonga kakhulu. That Baba uShenge, Mr. Ino Siptelezi, he's saying that when the incident took place, the thunderstorm struck this area, he was inside with his family, including the children, but fortunately no one got hurt as a result, and also no one died or was killed in that incident when these thunderstorms struck in this area. Well, he went on to say that the area is battling when it comes to the issues of services, delivery of services such as water, and also he made a mention of a road infrastructure that is very, very poor. He is saying that even driving from town to his home here, you are struggling a lot. You'll need a 4x4 vehicle in order to reach far-flung areas such as these where we are currently. So he is also saying that Cyril Ramaphosa, the president, must also maybe make a mention of some of the things that they battle with here, especially that of being taught about climate change in this area of Ulundi, because we know that it is very, very prone to natural disasters. As we know that in November last year, 4 people died as a result of the thunderstorms that took place. So he is saying that government needs to bring about services, including that of climate change education for the citizens, so that they are well aware of what to do and what not to do. Earlier on, I spoke to the neighbor of Mr. Shenge here. He's saying that they need to be also, given the lightning rods so that they are protected from the issues when it comes to the thunderstorms that usually hit this area. So Baba Ushenge here is also saying that it is very, very difficult for them, especially in these areas of Ulundi, in the deep rural area of this community of Untsogazi in the Ward 6. He is saying that there also needs those services to be brought here. They need a president to deliver on some of those services that are lacking in this area. He's also saying that as people who are farmers who've got cattle in this area, they need dams so that the cattle who are grazing here, because they've got such a vast land of grazing land here, they need a dam so that the cattle can have water nearby, because most of the cows usually drink water in far-flung area. They go about long distances in order to have and access to water. So Babu Shenge is calling on government to ensure that they bring about those services to the communities here at Ulundi, in this area of Ulundi, which was also battered by thunderstorms last year and killing 4 people as a result, and also flattening many houses here. We are told that in this Ward 6 alone, more than 200 houses that were destroyed. And also driving around here in this area, you can see so many people, so many infrastructure that has been damaged, including the multi-purpose center as well as the schools around here at Ward 6. But in the whole area of Ulundi, more than 400 houses that were destroyed as a result. It's back to you in the studio.
All right, Sibongeka Kakhulu with that update. SABC News reporter there, Vusi Khumalo, live from Ulundi in KwaZulu-Natal. We'll be crisscrossing across the country, talking to our journalists in different places, just to get a sense of their expectations on the State of the Nation address by the President later today. Peter?
Thanks, Palesa. Now, Police Minister Bheki Cele says that all preparations are in place for President Cyril Ramaphosa's State of the Nation address this evening. Cele was addressing the National Joint Operational and Intelligence Structure at the Castle of Good Hope ahead of their deployment to the parade and operational duties in and around the city for the SONA. Cele says that several thousand police and law enforcement officers will be stationed in and around the parliamentary precinct during the build-up and during the SONA.
As the President speaks about many other things, your economy, your employment, your unemployment, he will also speak about safety and all those kind of things. So we must make sure that we make those words of the President in practice, that outside people are safe, not only today. As we have said, that today is the genesis of the governance for this year. President will be giving the instruction and the path how to walk forward. So the police themselves are part of that instruction starting from today. Today is to make sure that everybody is safe, the precincts are safe, the guests are safe, everybody is safe. The emphasis will be forever with women and children. The question that I'm not going to answer, but you're going to ask, is how many forces that are there. There are many. There are many. As we speak on the field, there are more than 1,000. And when the climax, when the President speaks, there'll be more than 2,000 on the ground. So, but exactly the figures and how they put there, that is for us to keep.
President Cyril Ramaphosa is set to deliver his much-anticipated State of the Nation address in Parliament in Cape Town this evening. For the latest now, let us cross live to SABC News reporter Samkele Maseko. Samkele, good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming through. So we see a contingency of journalists right behind you, and I suppose it's almost all systems go for tonight. Journalists right behind
Are you good?
Yes, indeed. It's almost all systems go for tonight with the State of the Nation address to be delivered by President Cyril Ramaphosa. The red carpet has out for South African politicians. You can just see, I'll ask my colleague just to show you this red carpet that has been rolled out for these 400 members of Parliament of the joint sitting. I wonder when this red carpet will be rolled out to the most unequal society in the world. Poverty, inequality, unemployment, underdevelopment is ravaging the people of Africa. But those who are supposedly representing the millions and millions, the 54 million South Africans population are going to be walking through this red carpet. As you can see, one of those politicians is here. One of the members of parliament from Ekurhuleni is with me right now. He's just going to introduce himself and tell me why is he here to walk on a red carpet when his own people in Tembisa are languishing in poverty.
You should understand that we are on the red carpet not because of anything else, but to hear our president address how we are going to change the narrative of our people who may be struggling and who may be going through difficult times. Ours is not to come and shine, ours is to come and listen what is the action plan and how we are going to implement the strategic changes to make that transformation happens, and it happens now.
You've been listening for 6 administrations now, being the 6th one led by President Ramaphosa now, implementing.
I've just arrived in Parliament, so I haven't been listening for six consecutive years. But I can tell you that we've got a new dawn, and I'm very positive about what the President is going to say.
Some say this new dawn is the new dusk.
You'll always have pessimists, but I can tell you that those of us who are the optimists know that good things are coming.
If you're an optimist, there are no jobs. Poverty has increased, inequality has increased, unemployment in this country has increased. You look at the latest jobs review by the Department of Labor and the Statistician General. What does it say? It says that the future is bleak, people don't have jobs, yet you as politicians are walking through this red carpet in your expensive suits.
Listen to what the President is going to say. It's going to be good. And this is a local designer, locally made, local empowerment, made by South African hands. Glad to do that. Thank you.
Will all your members of parliament be following suit with you with beneficiation and applying back to the South African economy with suits made locally, or some will be wearing Gucci's and Louis Vuittons?
I really hope that we take the cue from the President. He did it last year with a local designer, local empowerment, and I hope others do the same. I follow suit. It's a new dawn.
Thank you very much, sir. There was an ANC member of parliament saying that he's gone local with what he's wearing, but most importantly, that they are not here only to walk through this red carpet, but they're here to listen to the president, they're here to implement and make sure that the undesirable socio-economic conditions, the triple challenges, poverty, unemployment and inequality, coupled with corruption, is eradicated. But business is saying that it's time for action now. You can see there's one particular delegate here who is coming to the State of the Nation address. That would be Mtambo Nkosana. Nkosana, why do you think it's important to come to this State of the Nation address today?
Better, hearing from the whole North, as we're facing, we have fundamental issues like unemployment that we want to hear. What's the way forward with the president? And we're looking forward to hear about the load shedding electricity issues. So I thought by myself, let me come from Vrede all the way in Free State and come here myself.
You're coming from Vrede?
From Vrede, I'm farming there in Vrede. So I thought to myself, let me come and represent the farm.
Part of the Gupta scandal there with the dairy farm?
Not at all, not at all, not at all. Trust me, I'm farming on my own, but yes.
What kind of cattle, what kind of farming are you into? And can you just expand with land expropriation without compensation coming? How is it going to benefit you as a young farmer?
Oh, well, I don't find it benefiting somewhere. I still say easy come, easy go. Some of us got what we got because of hard work. I'm still worried because of some people will be benefiting without working hard. So in all, I would say the expropriation of land without compensation, it's a bit tricky for me, but I'm aligned with it, but I'm not sure with it, yeah.
What do you expect the president to say, since he's also a farmer himself, his cattle and what in respect to farming and agrarian reform, what do you expect him to say?
I would like to mainly focus us emerging farmers, the red tape that is stopping us from getting market in the industry, maybe better. Why were 20 workers from his farm were, we could say like they were
retrenched?
Retrenched, yes. He may explain better why was that so, because we believe that agriculture is the sector that is going to bring employment in South Africa. Then.
Thank you very much, sir. What last question? What kind of farming are you in?
I'm doing mixed farming, crop and livestock farming. Then.
Okay, well done. Thank you so much. All the best. There are some other dignitaries who are coming through to this particular red carpet, and we'll be throwing some questions to them. They are looking rather ravaging as a particular couple coming to this State of the Nation address. What can you expect the President of the country, Cyril Ramaphosa, to say tonight? And can you introduce yourself to South African?
I am Angel Kanyile. I'm a DA Member of Parliament, and this is Honorable Mbulelo Baha. He is my colleague. We're actually hoping that the President is going to address the issues of unemployment, which is the biggest issue in our country, and now is actually going to come up with the issues of to rescue the SOEs. Yes.
Do you think that, particularly when you look at state-owned enterprises, they are the topic of the day today? The Red Berets have said they're going to be creating some drama in the State of the Nation address today. Is Minister Gordon doing a good job in the state-owned enterprises?
I'd like to reserve my comment on that.
Why would you like to reserve your comment on
that? Because I believe the spokesperson of the party is more than capable to answer that question.
And you, sir? What are you expecting to hear from the President in terms of state-owned enterprises, particularly the power utility?
I hope that the President will be able to tell us what can be done to turn around Eskom, given the fact that we're losing a lot of jobs as we speak. Unemployment has risen to 29%, and if he does not address that, he would have failed in taking this occasion and making sure that he takes the nation into confidence in terms of turning around the country and building a strong economy.
On this issue of turning around the economy, creating jobs, President Ramaphosa, when he came into the presidency, he was seen as a prominent someone who's been and worked within the private sector, and that it would be easier for government and the private sector to work together for economic stimulation of the country, for there to be trust within government and the private sector. Is there seemingly a synergy between the two now, or has the divide further exacerbated?
I think that instead of being better, things are worse than they were before. The President had made good promises when he first assumed office, but to say the least, nothing has changed. In fact, things have gone worse. Employment rate has risen. We've seen now, for instance, that provinces are not doing well in terms of employment. It's only the Western Cape that is better than all the other 8 provinces. So for me, I think that nothing has changed. And I wish South Africans could be able to see that nothing has changed and nothing will ever change. That has not changed in the past 25 years.
Thank you very much, sir. All the best for tonight. And we'll hear from you once the State of the Nation address is done. But I'm going to bring in some other dignitaries and guests who've come to the State of the Nation address. It's young people whom are here. What are you hoping to hear from President Cyril Ramaphosa tonight, particularly when it comes to issues of that are currently facing youth in this particular country?
This side, I want to hear in terms of job opportunities, because we are facing unemployment in South Africa. So it is time now. He must not do the talk show, but he must speak action. What is the action plan that is going to do for our country?
What are you particularly hoping that won't be spoken, but will be done to benefit you? I assume you be a young businessman or a young professional within whichever space you are working in. How is the State of the Nation address going to change your own material conditions?
As a councillor from Overstrand, what I hope, because I'm facing there is unemployment, so I, as he was going around before the SONA, many countries, so he's going to bring investment so that we can be able to to implement in our country and assist all the fears of government so that the unemployment can be addressed.
Thank you very much. Those are some of the young people who come here. He is a public representative and a councillor from where he comes from, and hoping to effect change within his own particular community. But he's going to step out of shot and show you that they too, as young people, have come out and put on their Christmas clothes, if one may say, and dressed up their best clothes.
Farewell, a matric farewell. That's what we're trying to do to this SONA of 2020.
Oh, well, they are saying it's a matric farewell. I wonder how old they are to be attending matric farewells. But the red carpet has been rolled out for them. But will it also be rolled out for you and I back home facing socio-economic conditions, or is it only preserved for the minority few in power?
All right. Many thanks there to our reporter Samkila Maseko live from Parliament. He is there on the red carpet. And I tell you what, one person who's got his Christmas clothes on today is Peter Ndoro.
I only dress as directed by our queen. All right, let's come back to Gauteng, and we go to the capital city now, where political analyst Levin Do is in our Pretoria studios, and we welcome him to talk to us a little bit about this SONA. Thanks so much. Always a pleasure to talk to you. You know, I think every year one hears that this is an important SONA, perhaps one of the most important, but one gets a sense that this one will be very important on two levels. One for the nation and one for President Cyril Ramaphosa himself. Let's start with why this is important for the President himself.
Peter, good afternoon, and good afternoon to the viewers at home. This becomes one of the important speeches by the President, because last year he had to address the nation, and then he had to outline his vision for South Africa. And what then he did last year was to indicate priority areas for South Africa, identify the challenges, and then said these are the promises that he actually put forward. In the second year now, after the last year's speech, he must start to indicate the actions that he started to do, especially in relation to priority areas that he actually identified. Everybody is expecting to hear what the President is going to say in relation to the steps that government has taken about job creation and youth unemployment. The plan is there, but people will want to know to which extent has government moved in addressing these issues. We have got challenges that relate to SOEs, Eskom, SAA, PRASA, Telkom, and other SOEs. Government has to come to the people and say, these are the challenges that we've identified, and these are the plans that we're dealing with in order to address the challenges that these different SOEs are actually facing. The time for speeches like any other people are saying, it's over, but ordinary citizens will love to know to which extent has the government moved to address the challenges facing ordinary citizens.
All right. I suppose a year down the line, yes, people want to see some quick wins, as it were, but is it perhaps too much of an expectation to think that he could do a lot in just a year?
It is important, Peter, to understand the government cycle. Government has a 5-year period, and the government is given sufficient time to plan. And if we had elections last year in April, the current administration has run for almost 7 to 8 months now, and indeed they are able to say, based on the plans that we've put forward, these are the steps, or these are the areas that we think we've actually done well. And if you want to bring confidence to ordinary citizens, you need to start saying that we've been able to achieve the following, even though some of the issues cannot be resolved immediately. But one is expecting to start seeing some motion on the part of government in addressing challenges that are facing ordinary citizens. The plan that has been put forward should be seen to be moving or to be in motion, and that you'll be able to bring confidence to ordinary citizens to say, indeed, the challenges that has been identified by government are known, and government is actually moving in order to address those challenges.
Let's talk a little bit about the tone of this SONA. How should it leave South Africans feeling? I remember in his first two, there were big messages of a vision, smart cities, bullet trains. and a vision of the future. And I guess this is what people want to hear, because they've got a new leader and they want to see what his big picture for the future is. But I guess now it's more about realistic things that can happen right now.
Indeed. When you come into the administration for the first time, you outline your vision. You portray an element of a person that understands what is happening in the country. You identify the problems, and then you develop your vision. In the second year, you need to start implementing in terms or on the challenges that we've actually identified. And that is why it's important for the president to say today, in relation to SOEs, these are the steps that government has actually taken in order to address those challenges. In relation to jobs or unemployment, these are the steps that government has actually taken to address these issues. In the fight against crime and corruption, the president must be able to say, these are the different steps that we've actually taken to deal with all these matters. And what ordinary citizens will be expecting would be to see government that is seen to be moving in addressing the very same challenges that are known by government and ordinary citizens.
All right, I'm going to use an analogy. Often when I'm at an airport and a plane has been delayed, I don't mind that it's delayed as long as I'm told what the problem is and realistically how long it's going to take to fix. I just wonder if he has to take the nation into his confidence and say, look, this is how bad things are, this is what I can fix, and this is what I can't fix, and therefore we don't have unreasonable expectations.
You need honesty. You need government that is able to come out and say, we have a problem of unemployment, and we think we are unable to address this matter. Even though you would actually talk about different conferences and gatherings that has taken place to address these issues, but to a certain extent, you need to be very honest or realistic when you deal with some of the challenges. If government could not build houses for a majority of citizens that are still waiting on the queue, government must be able to say, we wanted to build 2 million houses, but we couldn't because of these kind of problems that we actually face. That is an honest leader who is able to tell the citizens what is actually very correct. The notion that politicians are dishonest, politicians don't tell the truth, is found to be correct because some leaders would always want to be seen to be relevant or to be seen to be able to address all the challenges that are available. And sometimes that's the biggest mistake that politicians make.
All right, so you know what, I think just pause for a second, because as we're talking, we're also trying to get a sense from our viewers what their thoughts are on today's SONA. So listen to our next caller. Vanessa?
All right, so we have Anna Bester calling us from Cape Town. Good afternoon to you, Anna. What are your expectations?
Hi there, lady. I am not sure of your name. I am staying in Cape Town. I was born on the 8th of December, 1947. My husband passed away 14 years ago. He worked for the railways. I am battling with the railway pension that we get. Why isn't anybody fighting for us so that we can get our money back?
All right. Thank you so much, Anna, for your call, Peter.
All right, okay, well, let's go to Levi. And I guess, Levi, these are the kinds of issues that will come up. There are many citizens with very serious day-to-day issues, particularly our senior citizens, and they're going to want to hear something from the president tonight.
Indeed. There is a focus by government to look at the interest of the poor and the marginalized, including the aged people. And I'm aware that the majority of the elderly are going to be watching and listening to the State of the Nation address because they expect something to be done that affects their daily lives. Most of these aged people are actually suffering. They live in poor communities, and they want to know what is the program that government has in order to address their own challenges. And I know that most of them want to hear something positive that comes from the mouth of the said president. And I hope that these are some of the areas that the president has to touch on in order to have the marginalized, the poor, and the women to be seen as being taken care of by government. And I know government has to actually focus on those issues because I think they actually take them very, very seriously.
All right. I mean, again, you know, we have different layers of government, and he's at national government, he's the CEO of the country, but I guess the rock face really is at local government level, municipalities, and I wonder if isn't that where the real messages should be coming and be communicated to citizens? What can he say? Because most of the action actually happens at local government.
The ANC government is aware that service delivery has to happen mainly at local government. And what I think is a big challenge on the part of government is that in terms of deploying right people in local government, that's an area that for me is wanting. How many municipalities are being run by people that have relevant qualifications and skills to run municipalities? How many municipalities in South Africa are actually not running their finances correctly? How many citizens are actually complaining about poor service delivery in municipalities? How many days do we hear of where there are service delivery protests, and especially at municipalities? And if we can take the best of our citizens that are found at national parliament, deploy them into a local government, take the best qualified people that we have in South Africa and deploy them at local government, I'm aware that if we do that, we can see a lot of change. And I expect those that are in local government to actually ensure that with the message that they get from the president, they actually go back and say, we have a responsibility to deliver the best that we could in order to ensure that ordinary citizens get the best services from us.
All right, Prof, we're going to leave it there for the time being, but please stay with us because we'll continue chatting to you. People calling in, haven't we?
Yes, indeed, of course. Would really love to hear from you. 011-714-6841, alternatively 6842. Your expectations. We have Babalo on the line all the way from Cape Town. Good afternoon to you, Babalo.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for coming through. Your expectations from the president?
Yes, ma'am. I want to know what is the president's plan for... I want to know, ma'am, what is the president's plan regarding the graduates that is currently employed on a temporary contract by the government entities like SARS. So will there be any permanent placements to the graduates?
All right, thank you so much indeed for calling. That's Babalo, basically wanting to know about the graduations, the placement for all the graduates. I do remember that during his previous State of the Nation address, the president made mention of the fact that they will do away with seeking experience from the graduates when employed by the state. So we have another caller on the line. Joseph, good afternoon to you. Where you're calling us from? Kempton Park. Good afternoon. All right, we've lost Joseph there on the line. But I suppose, Peter, expectations from all corners of the country. And Babalo was making mention of the fact that what about the unemployed graduates? And as I say that during his State of the Nation address, the previous one, he made the announcement that they will no longer be looking for experience from the graduates when they're being employed by the state.
When young people are the most vulnerable because they're the most unemployed, these are the ones that are falling out of the education system. You know, we know that there's this drop-off from people who start grade 1 and then finish matric, but a lot of them, half of them, don't even get to matric. Where are they? And we saw this shocking 29.1% unemployment figure as well. So enormous task for the president, and we'll have to wait and see what he says this evening. But I think we believe we have tweets as well that are coming through.
All right, so let's take a look at some of your tweets. The first one from Apostle John, who says, I want to know when all the talking will be initiated. We are tired of empty promises.
Hafelo says that in all honesty, nothing at all except for all talk and no action.
And the next one from Siatemba, he says he's only expecting empty promises only.
Well, there you go. And I think that this is a common theme that we've been hearing, and it's not just this year. If you go back a number of years, this seems to be the one thing that people keep on saying, is that you promise us, and then you come around during election times, and as soon as the elections are done, we don't see you again. So,
I think it's an important question that you put to a political analyst, Levi, to say, all right, the promises have been put forward by the residents, and the president has indicated the intentions to address the problems, but it's a matter of when, time frames to all the promises made.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue with our rolling coverage as we start building up towards the State of the Nation address with President Cyril Ramaphosa later this evening.
Who did you speak to, Outsurance?
It was a guy called Neo.
Let's call him.
Yo, I know you were so wonderful. Like, honestly speaking, you've got such a warm personality, and I thank you so much.
Wow, that's so beautiful, man.
And I never thought I'd ever speak to him again.
Neo is the kind of guy who'd make you wanna
From the first day that I was approached by Outsurance, I was super excited about my ad. Working with them was absolutely wonderful. It was so professional. Katlego is the loveliest guy you could ever meet. I was so happy. It was such a cool experience. My name is Cyril Ramaphosa, and this is my Outsurance ad.
What is this? Do you sell eggs for a living? So I make music, I write music. So that's my shakeout. Oh! So dude, no wait. You gotta play me something. Have you got something? Blanca Mazimela. Yes. What? So there we go. See where it comes from. Ay! Gena man! I really did save from Outsurance, and yeah, like that's all it was about me saving my cash on Outsurance. The other thing was Tukatleho was very cool. I mean, I think we clicked because of the music, so it just made it even much cooler because he's a musician, I'm a musician, and you know, we actually forgot that we're shooting the ad in the whole process. So shooting with Katleho was obviously quite cool. What are you listening to on your radio?
I love my 80s music.
Oh yeah? Tina Turner?
Yeah.
You've got to give me your favorite Tina Turner song.
Simply the best.
I knew you were going to say that.
Ding, ding, ding. Ding, ding, ding.
And I'm
ding.
You gotta give it some attitude. Hey.
Ding, ding, ding. I had so much fun on set. Even though on the day I was feeling sick and I barely had a voice, you all made me feel like a rock star from the moment I walked in there. So thank you to Outsurance, thank you to all the colleagues, and a big thank you to Katlego. It was such a pleasure meeting you.
Every now and then I come to this car wash in the morning just before I go to work.
What made you decide to go with Outsurance?
I asked Outsurance to give me a quote.
Yeah.
She took me through everything and I was very happy.
How much did you say?
760.
How much did you say?
I know. 760.
Unbelievable.
unbelievable. SMS SAVE to 34473 or call 08600 60,000 and Chenchad IDing.
Welcome back. You're still watching S8 Today, and we're starting to count down to that all-important State of the Nation address a little bit later on, the fourth by President Cyril Ramaphosa. And to say that there are great expectations perhaps is an understatement.
Yes, indeed, of course. Very much anticipated speech there by the President. So we'd really love to hear from you, your expectations from the speech tonight. So we go to our calls once again. Mpapudi calling us from Thohoyandou. Ndimatsiar. Mpapudi, good afternoon.
Afternoon, how are you?
Good and you, sir?
Do you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Eh? Loud and clear. Hey, I expect the President to talk more about corruption.
What exactly do you want him to say about corruption?
Because,
he's been very vocal.
The state capture is revealing a lot of money that has been lost. And we don't see action towards the people who have mishandled the funds.
All right, thank you so much.
And secondly, I want him, somebody had just phoned in talking about pension. So here in Venda, we have got a pension saga. There is an issue the President is aware of. People who work in the former Venda government have got a problem with their pension, and there doesn't seem anybody is ready to assist them. So we want them to, that matter also to be on the agenda.
All right. Thank you so much. That's Mpapudi from Thohoyandou. The issue around pension funds once again, and of course corruption. A lot of people saying that accountability, who has been held to account regarding state capture, people have not been sent to jail. That's what many people have been saying on Twitter as well. So let's take a look at some of your tweets at SA_SABC.
Kagiso Oates says that skills development is the way to go. I think that this thing of degrees and diplomas doesn't help us in any way.
And the next one from Kufa Critic, who says, nothing, all his talks are based on what he knew before becoming the president. It's like a same song sang differently since 2000. They've just changed the lyrics between the former president Thabo Mbeki, JZ, the former president Jacob Zuma, and now President Ramaphosa.
All right. All right, those are your tweets on social media, but we've got another caller calling us from Cape Town. AB, a very good afternoon to you. You'll be watching the President later this evening. What would you like him to say to you tonight?
Good afternoon to you. Yes, certainly so. I would love him to really tell the nation about all this corruption. You know, all our state enterprises, all these people that have been stealing the money, and why can't they just lock these people up so that we can have peace of mind? Where is all the money going to? In the big holes that we cannot take the money back and give it to the poor people that are struggling and all that. That is my main point that I would like to ask the President to attend to, and unemployment as well. You know, there are so many ideas that we as a local people have, but nobody is listening to us. I have such a great vision for our country, and we would love to have everybody just to live in peace and in harmony and have work, jobs, and food, and nobody must be able to battle and struggle. Thank you very much.
AB, before you go, you don't think that government, the President's doing enough on crime? I mean, there is this State Capture Commission, and we've been told that it takes time to go from hearing this evidence to investigating it and then putting people in jail. Do you think maybe they need a little bit more time, or do you think they've had enough time?
Yeah, for sure. Everybody's waiting. What is going to happen after this commission, the SONA commission? Evidence has been brought forward so many times, and people are still wandering around. You know, with all these monies that are lost and all these type of things. It is really sad for our country. President Nelson Mandela was the one that said, let us build a nation, a rainbow nation, not only for blacks, for colors, for Indians, for whites, for all of us. Let us live and build our nation even stronger. Look at our sporting. The rugby has shown us that we can stand together and we will survive. But all these unexpected things that's happening in our country, that makes us really sad. And it's destroying us as normal people.
All right, and perhaps finally, how does it make you feel when you see these people being named at these commissions and nothing seemingly happening, and also when you see so many young people around you in your neighborhood who are sitting around doing nothing? How do you feel when you see all of this? All right, it looks like AB's gone, but yeah, I mean, these are the kind of honest accounts that we're getting from society. The themes are common, and I suspect government knows about them, and it really is the challenge of how to do these things and do them quickly so that people can see visibly that a difference is happening. Yes, indeed.
All right, so we are now going to take a quick break. We'll see you with more news right at the top of the hour.
It's something we don't like to talk about, and very often we don't plan for it. But everyone deserves a dignified farewell when they pass away. A funeral plan doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Outsurance has a solution that's available now. A flexible, low-cost funeral plan that's helpful in life. The Outsurance funeral plan suits all your needs. It offers value, it's dependable, has benefits, flexibility, trust, and dignity. R4 is a good deal. You know what else is a good R4 deal? On average, an Outsurance funeral plan with 50,000 Rand of cover only costs R4 a day. At Outsurance, your premiums are based on your unique profile to offer you the cheapest premium possible. And that is a great deal. Timing is important. Like the time it takes for your insurer to settle a funeral plan claim, Outsurance is a name you can trust for fast, efficient claims processing that pays out in 24 hours after your claim is approved and finalized. At least choosing a low-cost funeral plan is very easy. Build your Outsurance funeral plan with benefits that are important to you. Add family members and choose a cover amount between 30,000 and 100,000 Rand, which includes a 5,000 Rand cash benefit of your choice for transport, catering, after tears, a tombstone, or a marquee. A few minutes is all it takes to get you covered, and it could save you a lot. Did you know that Outsurance has a funeral plan with a pause and play feature? That means that if you go through hard times and can't pay your premiums, you can pause your premiums for up to 3 months. And when you are able to resume paying premiums and your cover starts again, there won't be a waiting period.
Very good afternoon to you. You're watching SA Today on the SABC News channel, independent and impartial. And we're coming to you live from our studios here in Johannesburg. I'm Peter Ndoro.
And I'm Palesa Chibise. Very good afternoon to you indeed. This is now the second hour of SA Today. It's good to have you with us on this very important day as all eyes are on Parliament, specifically on the President really for the much anticipated State of the Nation address. That is indeed the question of the day.
Yes, indeed. Well, this is what we're asking you, and we'd love to hear from you. What are your expectations? What do you have in terms of expectations from President Cyril Ramaphosa's State of the Nation address 2020? What do you want to hear?
All right, so you can tweet us at SA_SABC, but we are also taking calls this afternoon. You can indeed start calling us in. That number is 011 714 6841, alternatively 011 714 6842. So let's have those specifics. What is it that you want to hear the President address in his speech tonight?
Yeah, we certainly look forward to hearing from you. All right, well, it's all happening in Cape Town, where President Cyril Ramaphosa is set to deliver that State of the Nation address later on.
Yes, indeed. So let's take you back to our team in Cape Town and say good afternoon to them.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you so much, Peter and Palesa. Absolutely spot on there in terms of what is going to be going down here in Cape Town, and of course this joint sitting of Parliament convened by the President to set out the key deliverables and objectives that government has for the nation. And of course sitting with me here in studio at this point is the SABC's team. Of course Mzwandile Mbeche is our political editor, and our parliamentary editor Riani Green also here with us to just take a look at what to expect. The nation is expectant, but of course the President has to highlight those achievements. He has to highlight the challenges, and also in some sense leave us some bit of hope on which to hang our hats on here, Mzwandile.
Exactly, Sakina. That's exactly what he said when I had a quick chat with him yesterday. He basically said he will inspire hope, because the plans that he's going to announce will be able to indicate where the country is going. Remember, South Africans have been complaining to say it seems to be directionless. Where's the president? President, lead us. And in fact, to underscore that, Sakina, last night he met a team of ministers from the cluster. So that gives you an indication that this speech will be so much more about economy, because without that, so this country is really not moving anywhere. Unemployment, SOEs and stuff like that. So that's where I expect him to really focus on.
Riani, as someone who spends most of your time here in this precinct where we're visiting today, I mean, what has the buzz been about for the other 13 political parties who make up Parliament here?
Well, Sakina, good afternoon. This is a political space, political environment where different political ideas, policies are contested, among the 13 parties that are represented here. A lot of political parties, especially your opposition, they are quite critical of the government's performance under the president. And in the period leading up to today, some of them, they held their so-called alternative State of the Nation address, because they think that they can outline better policies to attend to some of the problems or the pressing problems that the country is facing. But I think most of them, they just want to see what the president is going to do, and then their chance will come next week when they will have a go at the president in terms of dissecting his speech.
Well, in terms of the expectations of what is to come here tonight, there is, of course, all the pomp and ceremony on the red carpet and the ceremonials preceding all of this as the president makes his way here to the house behind us. And Bulelani Philip is out on the streets to give us a little sense of what is currently happening and also what to expect. Bulelani, over to you.
Well, thank you so much. It's a good afternoon to you guys, and it's just under 3 hours before the State of the Nation address by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Of course, I'm standing outside the gates of Parliament on the corners of St. John's Plain Street. This is ordinarily where the president uses particular entrance behind my colleague and cameraman to actually enter his Cape Town-based office, 10 days. But today, it's a big day for him, delivering his fourth SONA, as I said. And I'm going to just step out of picture just to give you an indication of the route that he will be taking. Those barricades will be lifted, and the convoy is going to, as you see in picture, no chances. A lot of policemen, a lot of members of the South African National Defence Force are standing by to monitor safety and issues and to actually check any eventuality. Of course, there's also to my left who are standing by with their cast on barbed wires, of course.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the red carpet of SONA 2020. Right here with me, Asanda Beche. And this year, I have my new colleague, Natasha Perry. Welcome to Parliament. Welcome to the red carpet.
Thank you so much. And of course, to our SABC viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, to our SABC 2 viewers, I can't wait, honestly.
I understand this is your first time doing the red carpet. What are you looking forward to the most?
Definitely, this is my first time. Well, despite the president's speech, I think the pomp, the ceremony, who's wearing what, the glitz, the glam, is it in, is it out, is it a hit or is it a miss?
We can already see from behind us down the road right here on the red carpet that some people have started streaming in, but most of them now are just getting their publicity shots, really just to make sure that they're in there on social media, they're on TV the earliest they can do. Will you be able to interact with our viewers as well as people on social media this afternoon?
Definitely, and to our SABC SABC 4 viewers, don't forget there the hashtag is SONA 2020, and of course interact with us at SABC News Online. Back to you, Sakina.
Thank you, Natasha. And as she said there, hashtag SONA 2020. We want to hear, we want to see it all, and give us your views, your thoughts, your expectations as well. And that's not all the team. We'll be introducing you to the rest of the team as this particular broadcast continues. But let's bring it back to studio now with our editors here at the SABC. And Mzwandile, you spoke about, the president obviously paying attention to the economy and the challenges faced there. But it's a very tight rope for him to walk, because he's going to have to make some concessions in terms of where the failures have been.
Absolutely. In fact, he will then have to really show that he can lead this nation by being able to strike that balance. Because the economy is in a difficult situation. But you and I want delivery, want service delivery, and people out there are no longer that patient. So what is it that he needs to do? I think for me, when I saw him meet with all the key stakeholders, so that gave perhaps an indication that probably ways, having there, you can see that what he says, he doesn't want to say things that is not costed. Seeing those ministers making a contribution, I think he wants to do the deliverables. But Sakina, I think you and I agree that in terms of plans, our country has always been the greatest. What has been lacking is the implementation. So South Africans will be waiting to hear their president tell them how is he going to do Project A to see it to finish without a situation where you see a number of being started but not completed.
But Vuyani, in terms of that, Mzwandile, you say we're great at coming up with plans, coming up with ideas, but we never implement. So how then are we able to gauge, to assess whether those plans are in fact good plans? Because unless they are implemented, how can we actually say that?
Well, I think that's where, Sakina, the role of Parliament comes in, because Parliament, in terms of the Constitution, exercises an oversight role over the executive, because it's Parliament that allocates resources, votes budget into these different government departments for these programs that the President would have outlined. So it's up to Parliament to exercise this effective oversight over some of these government programs. Like for instance, right now we've got a problem with our SOEs. And the question is, what role did Parliament play in terms of making sure that if there are problems, it's able to highlight those problems in advance and say, hang on, there's a problem here. And I think that's where this Parliament will have to really reconsider its role and assert its role in terms of making sure that it holds government in check. Unfortunately, in terms of our electoral system, you know, the majority party is the one that assumes government, and it stands to reason that the majority of its members, the chairperson of these various committees, are members of the ANC, and therefore I think it's human nature not to be too critical of yourself, because this is their party. But I think because to the extent that they take an oath of office to abide by the constitution and the laws of the country, they will have to make sure that they do that, and make sure that whatever they do, it's in the interest of the country rather than the interest of the party. And then if that happens, we won't see some of these problems that we've been experiencing of late.
And those are very crucial points that are being made, because is Parliament able to introspect in terms of their role, the role that they have played to the point where we find ourselves today with a country that is, very apprehensive at this point to hear any more promises from its government, but of course still anticipating what the president may deliver tonight. And as I say, we have a whole team out here to make sure we bring you carpet and wall-to-wall coverage of what is happening here in Parliament today. And it's now over to Aldrin Sampier and Samkelo Maseko, who are out somewhere at the red carpet.
Not too far, Sakina, where the president will, for the fourth time, pledge allegiance to the country, pledge allegiance to South Africa for the fourth time, right here at this particular point. And you'll have the president walking through these doors again, and ultimately the moment that we are all waiting for around whether the president, what promises the president has to give in terms of the State of the Nation address, but also very importantly to that conversation, it is what has been delivered so far. Someone who has been covering the build-up to the State of the Nation address is Samkelo. Let's just quickly touch on the build-up to the State of the Nation address and those events that have been taking place.
Well, indeed, Eldrin, there have been festivities taking place. We've had the president coming out, and with the 30th anniversary of the death of the release, rather, of Utata Nelson Mandela from Robben Island, coming out and speaking at the Grand Parade and saying he was there on this very day that Utata Mandela was released, and part of the team that came and from the particular prison where he was at, and he was there at the Grand Parade to receive the president. And when the president addressed them into their confidence, and he was there, he was holding the mic, he had goosebumps on that particular day, and saying that those struggles that were achieved with the release of Utata Nelson Mandela can be reflected as the same struggles that the country is facing today, and that the country, if it unites, can come out and win the socio-economic challenges that the country is facing, and also recover the economy. Currently in the doldrums. You heard our political editor Mzwani Lembeja saying the president met with the economic cluster ministers just yesterday into the late hours, basically refining his speech, looking at how he's going to craft this particular speech when it comes to state-owned enterprises, which will be the topic of the day here today, particularly with the Minister of Public Enterprises, who seemingly going to face a show-off with the EFF here tonight.
And we'll have to wait and see indeed if the EFF will follow up on that threat that they will disrupt Parliament if the president does not fire Pravin Gordhan. But as it stands right now, less than 3 hours away from the State of the Nation address and the president delivering that speech, as it stands at the moment, it is quite clear that Pravin Gordhan remains the public minister, or the Minister of Public Enterprises. Let's quickly speak about the EFF and the plans that the EFF has in place.
Well, Eldrin, the EFF seemingly has some tricks up their sleeve on how they are going to be disrupting this State of the Nation address, and they are saying saying even if it's the last mic that's available with all the others switched off and it's that on the podium of the president, they will go up to that mic and they will speak on behalf of their over 10% voters who voted for them in these past general elections in 2019. And you've had their Commander-in-Chief, Julius Malema, saying that what happened in the National Council of Provinces with Minister Pravin Gordhan when he was reporting back on the work being done in these SOEs. The EFF MPs went around him. You had DA members of parliament led by Natasha Mazzoni, who later moved away, and Don Steenhuisen came up with ANC by Hope Up coming to have a defense wall around Pravin Gordhan, the very same man whom they defended when former President Jacob Zuma wanted to fire when he was still the President of the Republic of South Africa, when Pravin Gordhan was the Minister of Finance in the country. So it's looking like as if he's going to have his hands full with trying to keep the 44 Red Battalion away from him and away from the president. But you yourself are seemingly dressed for the occasion. Just look at your particular jacket. It's like you are adorning the red carpet with these members of parliament.
Why are you doing that? Stop it. Let's go over to Auckland Park and we'll continue with the rolling coverage of the State of the Nation address. It is the 4th time that the president will be delivering that address.
All right, yeah, we're focusing on the State of the Nation address, and we continue with our preview as we start to unpack some of these issues. And joining us now to get a bit more insights on that, we're now joined by a lecturer in the School of Politics at UKZN, Mr. Zakele Ndlovu, who's in Durban. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope you can hear us. Can you hear us?
Yes, definitely.
Great, thanks so much indeed for joining us. And here in studio, I'm joined by Deborah Mtemwa, who's a governance specialist, lawyer, and analyst general. Thanks so much for joining us, Deborah. Always a pleasure talking to you.
It's a pleasure to be here as always.
All right, let me start with you, Mr. Zakele, in Durban. Your thoughts about this speech today. What does it need to be?
Well, first of all, let me say that I think the most important thing about this speech is going to be the economy. We have high unemployment in South Africa. Our economy is shedding jobs. More and more people are unemployed. I'm just going to point out something. You will find that there's a lot of students who continue with their studies to do honors and masters, not because they want to, but it's because there are no jobs out there for them. So I think jobs, the president is going to have to address that issue of high unemployment. And secondly, poverty, which is related to unemployment. And of course, this widening gap between the rich and the poor in South Africa. It's unsustainable. So I think that the president is going to have to dwell a lot on the economy and address that issue, because I think South Africans are getting impatient, they're getting restless and tired. So it's going to be very important for the president to assure them that the government is doing something to attract investments so that jobs can be created.
All right. So, Deborah, unemployment is another big issue for you. And I just wonder, I mean, 29.1%, that's the figure that we got for the fourth quarter last year. The only saving grace, if there is such a thing, is that it didn't get worse. It stayed at its record levels. I mean, what can you do if the economy is not moving?
Yes.
These jobs are not going to come from anywhere.
Precisely, and the hope is that the president will come up or, share some plans to fix the economy, up employment, particularly youth unemployment, which is much higher than the national average. And I think, speaking a few days ago at an NYDA presentation, the president actually called youth unemployment a political and economic crisis, and it is a crisis. And I think before we reach the boiling point, I think something's got to give, and the hope is that the president in the State of the Nation address reassures the nation that something will give.
we talk about reassuring the nation, but I guess you've got to give these young people something to hold on to. What might that be?
So 2018, we were galvanized. We believed in Tumamina, the new dawn. 2019, we saw the SONA in June, and it spoke about a lot of dreams, a lot of hopes. And one can only hope that, just practically speaking, Ramaphosa's government has only been actually in place for almost 10 months now. The ministers of cabinet that he appointed only came into their seats around June last year. It's now February. One can hope that real work is being done on the ground, and that as the president shares what government has been up to in the past year, we'll be reassured that something will change, particularly for the youth.
Yeah. Mr. Ndlovu, the youth in South Africa, the number of unemployed, and in fact, you know what, I'm going to ask you that question just now, because we're going back to Cape Town at the red carpet, and let's just get a sense as people start to make their way in. And at the red carpet, I think we have some, Kelly.
Yes. No, I don't.
All right, okay, so we'll go to them shortly, but Mr. Ndlovu, we're talking about young people, and you said some of them are continuing with their education because there are just no jobs out there. Are we sitting on a ticking time bomb? Because you can only delay this for so long. It gets to a point when something has to happen, otherwise who knows what will happen next?
It's very sad. There's something else that I wanted to point out earlier on, and that is we're seeing more and more young people getting hooked on drugs. Here in Durban, people use the word amapara. For young people who live in the streets, they abandon their homes to go and live in the streets, get hooked on drugs. I think in Joburg they call it nyawop or something. But you're seeing more and more of these young people who are hooked on drugs. And unfortunately, when we talk about the unemployment rates, we don't even count these people, because when we talk about unemployment rates, we are looking basically at the official definition of unemployment, and that only looks at the people who are actively looking for work. And then the expanded definition, which includes people who have become discouraged, who are no longer looking for work. We don't factor in the people who are hooked on drugs. So I'm not even so sure if it's a deliberate strategy to get young people hooked on drugs, so that when we talk about unemployment, especially among young people, we simply look at the people who are either actively looking for work or those who have become discouraged. So we leave out these young people who are hooked on drugs. And this is a big problem for South Africa, because it feeds into the crime problem that we have in South Africa. So I think President Ramaphosa, this idea that he talks about him, send me Tumamina, really he needs to do something, because people have voted for him. And actually they expect him and all the other leaders to do something for them. And later on, maybe if there's a chance, I want us to talk about our electoral system, which is also a problem, because it doesn't give voters the power to hold elected representatives accountable.
All right, so whilst I've still got you there, it's been 2 years now for President Ramaphosa, and there was, as you said, this Ramaphoria, Tumamina, and I guess at this stage now, people want a little bit more. Does he have to reignite something? I don't know whether it's another Tumamina version 2, or what does he need to do to get people back on side?
Well, look, there's not much he can do. All he can do is deliver on the promises that he has made. Yeah, so I think that President Cyril Ramaphosa needs to make sure that the team that he has assembled delivers. And I think that's the only way that's going to get South Africans to have confidence in him as their leader. and actually take this country forward. Right now, people talk about the country being on autopilot, and that is not very good.
All right, thanks very much indeed. How would you assess the presidency and the work of government perhaps in the past 2 years, perhaps as an indicator of just how much still needs to be done?
I think I'll have to borrow from something you've already said, in that, you know, it took 10 years to create this mess, and I think we will have to give it more than 1.5 minutes to see it reversed. One can hope that Ramaphosa's government has been, you know, has hit the ground running and is really looking at innovative ways to deal with the country's most pressing needs. You know, we talk about unemployment, and one of the key pillars of the National Development Plan around unemployment was that, you know, small businesses would fill in this gap of, you know, the required jobs that need to address this problem, are needed to address this problem. But that was by 2030. We're 10 years away. So what is his government, what is the Department of Small Business going to do to really accelerate how small businesses work in this country, and also how will they support them beyond funding, support them in a way that they can grow and become sustainable and really create the jobs that we need in this economy?
All right, okay. Now, if you've just joined us, we're working our way towards the State of the Nation address by President Cyril Ramaphosa. I'm in conversation with Zagalendlovu and Deborah Mtemwa here in Johannesburg and also in KZN. But we're hoping to keep you updated with what's happening on the red carpet in Cape Town. I'm wondering if we're able to go there now. All right, doesn't look like it. Palace, I know that one of the big things that happens on the red carpet is how people look.
Yes, indeed, Peter. It's starting to get a bit lit now on the red carpet. We've seen live visuals from Parliament, and this certainly means that fashionistas and fashion police are already as well on the lookout to see who's made it and who didn't really quite get the memo this year. Let's just talk fashion a bit now. These are live visuals, of course. We'll zoom in and out of the dignitaries as they walk onto that red carpet. So let's just get an understanding as to how is one expected to dress up for the State of the Nation address. In studio now, I have Oma Dema. She's a creative and founding director of Plus Fab. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming through.
Afternoon.
All right, so we've already started seeing some people, of course, arriving in Parliament. But firstly, I remember last year, a lot of people were saying that, listen, it looks like people are confusing the opening of Parliament with a matric dance.
Or a Durban July.
Or a Durban July. But how does one dress for State of the Nation address?
Look, I think State of the Nation address is a dignified event. It's a formal event. It's a state affair. So obviously they would need to look really nice, but it's not like there's no need for like Christmas tree heads or something like that. But also we want to see, because we hardly see them coming in. So we hardly see them coming in. We always see them sitting down. So today we get to see all the members of Parliament walk the red carpet, which is something they do probably once in a year at the big stage like this one. So we want to see that style, but we also want to see that they understand, you know, the magnitude of this kind of event. It's not a Durban July, so it's not really about just showing maybe opulence, whatever. It's about just showing your style and understanding that this is an official event, and it's not like going to the office normally, but it's also a dignified event.
A bit of glamour.
A bit of glam.
But not too much?
Not too much, and also like a little bit of just showing us your real style, your real, you know, what silhouettes you go for.
All right, maybe the question here, Oma, is what's the safest way of doing it?
There is no safest way of doing it, because different bodies, different shapes, different colors, different silhouettes. I always say, don't follow the rules, but also just know what works with you. The biggest issue for me, it has always been, if you understand your body and you understand the silhouettes that go, you know, with your body, then whatever you wear would still look amazing. I always say, you know, maybe to big girls, for instance, your waist is not, it's literally a centimeter under your bust. You can never have a waist just somewhere here, because it's going to show a little bit of, stuff that you don't want to see because you've got a big tummy. So you must always try and be clever about what you wear. There are a lot of things that you can show. You can show your cleavage. The twins are out to play today. So you can always do things like that, but do it very moderately, very nice, but also just in understanding of your body shape. You can wear like a peplum. I see somebody wearing a peplum there. So it's very clever. It's a very clever, so it's very slim fit. But she might just want to show, not to show the tummy. So she does that, and she does that very well.
But firstly, whose responsibility is it? Because for most occasions, we go to our fashion designers to say, listen, I've got an opening of parliament coming up. Dress me up.
Yeah.
Do we blame it on the fashion designers, or as you say, as a size 34 like me, a better, fully figured out, I've got to know what works for me and what doesn't work?
Look, I think it's always a collaboration, It's always a client comes and say, I have a picture of, like, she showed me a picture of Halle Berry, and she said, I want to look like this one. So the approach in which you're taking it, it's not going to lead to great results. So I always say, come and let's collaborate. What is it that you like? So somebody will say, I don't show my arms, right? So then we'll say, okay, fine, let's do something sheer, right? That will not necessarily show your arms, but will kind of show your arms, right? Let's collaborate, but it's collaboration with understanding of your body, your type, your body, and what works in terms of your silhouettes, and also just what is it that you want to channel, you always want to channel either like your queendom come, you want to channel a European queen, you want to channel an African princess. What is it that we want to channel? What is it that we're trying to achieve? And also, there are tricks. I don't want to wear heels. The red carpet is long. I don't want to wear heels. How do I do? Yes, but a dress that is not just necessarily, lazily long. It's something, with nice embellishments at the bottom, so that you don't get to see my shoes.
All right, tell you what, let's just now go live to the red carpet.
Yes.
And our reporter, Natasha Puri, is standing by. Natasha, good afternoon to you. So we're talking some fashion sense here in studio. What are you seeing there on the ground?
Okay.
Natasha, are you able to hear us? All right, so I think it's a bit noisy there. So as soon as Natasha is able to hear us, so we'll certainly be crossing back to her for an update. But who was your best dressed MP or dignitary during the State of the Nation address last year?
Last year, who did I love?
All right, so we saw, let's just take, for instance, the University of Cape Town's Vice-Chancellor, Professor Mamokgethi Phakeng.
The Fab Academic.
Simplicity.
The Fab
Let's just put up her peak now so that we can talk to what the Prof was wearing last year.
Okay. Let's.
There you are.
There she is, the
Fab
Fab Academic.
A full skirt.
Look, I think she understands that this is a classical example of somebody who understands that this is not necessarily a Deb in July, right? She has always wanted to express the importance of Africanness in her look, in her makeup, in her hair, in the dress that she's, I think it's a skirt and a top, right? And also she just didn't want to be all form-fitting. She wanted to be loose and also channel a little bit of a lot of African prints. I see that clashing a little bit there. But this
is it always safe to go the African print way?
No, there's no rule, I say. It's you can do that, and it can all be black, it can all be navy blue. It'll still look amazing. But
it's just a matter of how it fits.
Yeah,
on
the
body,
top looks amazing. It's a little bit underwhelming, though. It's nice. There's nothing to critique. It's underwhelming, it's safe, it's okay.
All right, so let's try Natasha Puri, who's standing by at the red carpet in Parliament. Natasha, we're talking some fashion here in studio, and tell us what you're seeing there in Parliament.
Well, Palisa, quite interesting outfits, some hits, some misses, but of course I'm joined by the Minister of Small Businesses, Mam Chabin. Thank you so much for joining us. First and foremost, what are you wearing? I see you're wearing a vintage outfit. Who are you wearing?
I'm wearing Just Poppy by Poppy Merege from Limpopo in Vembe.
And what was the concept behind your outfit?
She wanted to dress me, and I'm not a person of all the fluffy and whatever, so I said I'll also be working, so I need to be simple, I need to be comfortable, I kind of like the vintage stuff. I guess I'm an old soul.
Okay, definitely. So, Minister, I mean, you're tasked with heading quite a big, department. We've got a high unemployment rate. We're at 29.1%. But I mean, take us through the strides of your ministry, what your ministry has done so far, and what we can expect the president to speak to in terms of unemployment.
So we have done a few things. We have improved our access from young people and women and just entrepreneurs from rural and township areas to access our services. And we knew the complexity of completing too many forms to do that. So we then developed one single form where you can apply for funding or support from SIDA, CIFA, NEF, and the department using one form. That's one. But we have also partnered with municipalities so that our services can be accessible because they are closest to the people. Their LED units are able to guide people in terms of accessing our services. But we have also gone out to find entrepreneurs, those who are not able to complete forms, those who are scared to complete forms, those who have ideas, who think my idea may not be good enough, to come and pitch and get funding or get support. And we have gone out to provinces. We still continue to go out to provinces. But we have also gone on a roadshow on information session, because the other problem with our entrepreneurs is that they do not have information, or they do not know what is available, what's there to support them. That's what we have done. We have also started to extend our network of incubators, because most people, when they start their businesses, they don't know how to run the business. So you need a helping hand, you need somebody who will guide you, you need somebody who will advise you. So we've extended that network, and we want to extend it further to make sure that it's closest to our people in rural areas and in our townships, but also be accessible to our young people. We have partnered with TVET colleges, we've got centers for entrepreneurship and rapid incubation. So we've done that is so much, and we have been, in our efforts, we have focused on how do we support women entrepreneurs.
Okay, Minister, I'm just going to have to cut you there and actually cross to my colleague, Samgele Masego, who's on the other side of the red carpet.
Yes, indeed, Natasha, politicians are coming in their droves here tonight for this particular State of the Nation, the fourth one, which will be delivered by President Cyril Ramaphosa. We are expecting one of Amandla Mandela and Mrs. Mandela to come through and speak to us just moments from now on this particular State of the Nation address to be delivered by President Cyril. But the politicians are coming in, and South Africans will be waiting with anticipated breath on what President Cyril Ramaphosa has installed on his menu for them tonight, and if each and every South African will be catered in this particular menu of President Cyril Ramaphosa tonight in his State of the Nation address. The issues of poverty, inequality, unemployment, the performance of the South African economy is one of the issues that are on the agenda. Business looking specifically on the issue of what's in store for the economy, for the economy to grow once again. Remember, during the era of former President Mbeki, this South African economy was growing at over 3.5% per GDP. So these are some of the issues that are and particularly within the business fraternity, that President Cyril Ramaphosa could be able to rectify. Then you've got issues that are facing the poor. They need access to infrastructure out to them, RTP houses. You'd remember one of the stories that was done by our one of the senior reporters, Ntebu Mukobo, and particularly on the issues of service delivery in one of the townships outside Soweto when it comes to RTP houses that are being built within that particular area. So those are some of the issues that are going to be heard within the State of the Nation address. You'd remember the governing party within Gauteng, the ANC, had responded to that particular story that we did. So service delivery is one of the foremost issues that are at the top of this State of the Nation address. I'm just waiting for Mandla Mandela to come through so that he could also speak to us on what they are expecting their comrade and their member of their president as the ANC caucus will be saying to them and will be delivering to the nation when it comes to issues of particularly state-owned enterprises. You remember that the EFF is threatening to disrupt this State of the Nation address if President Ramaphosa does not fire the Minister of Public Enterprises when he begins with his State of the Nation address here tonight. They are saying they are going to be using unorthodox methods in holding the executive to account on this particular day. It seems as if Mandla Mandela is taking some time there as he's engaging with other media personnel on this particular issue. I'm just going to ask one of my colleagues to bring in Mondli Gungubele, one of the former deputy ministers in President Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinet, to speak on this particular issue of the state-owned enterprises. I'm going to link to my colleague Natasha Piri to speak to Mondli Gungubele, former Deputy Minister of Finance. Yeah, I'm going to punch you back, Minister, since you want to punch me. Well, former Deputy Minister, one may say.
Thank you very much, Samgan. And indeed, I am joined by the former Deputy Minister of Finance. Quite a huge portfolio that you used to hold. Bab Gungubele, what can we expect from the President?
We expect the President to demonstrate how is he going to navigate the tough path of fiscal challenges, to send a clear message that our fiscal framework is of such a nature that rating agencies will be able to work along with us. Investors will find South Africa a destination for investment.
Bab Gungubele, I mean, the problem of SOEs is a huge challenge. You have a minister, Ubab Gwede Mantashe, he keeps on somewhat contradicting himself. He made statements, SAA should be privatized. The next thing he comes out and says that he was, quoted or misquoted or misunderstood by the media. What do you think should happen? Should our state-owned enterprises be privatized?
Listen, ANC, with regard to state-owned enterprise, has got an open mind. We do not hand over state-owned enterprises where we become minority shareholder. But the question of accommodating a private equity...
But are these not against the policies of the ANC?
No. ANC, if you know, stands for mixed economy. What is strong at any given point of private is on the balance of evidence. It is the position of the NEC that SOEs can pull in private equity partner as long as we keep the majority. Secondly, on the SAA, the position of the ANC is to keep SAA, allow it to go the process of a business rescue to ensure that it's a commercially viable sort of asset. The key thing is, a number of times when people speak about SAA, they think about passengers. The big thing when we talk about the national airline is aviation economy. Aviation economy is the economic approach these days. It absorbs a lot of work, it deals with the modern economy, advanced economic production.
You're in the ANC caucus. Can you confidently say that the President will take the nation into confidence?
I have no doubt. I have no doubt.
But Mondli, people are tired of, the talk shops. People are tired of your new dawns. We will. When will the time of implementation actually happen?
I'm sure you will know that historically this president does not have a track record of calling people to talk shops. We are walking a very difficult path and acknowledge that things are not going to be easy. The economy has been ravaged by so many things in the couple of years. To turn it around, it's not going to be an easy thing. A lot of things, you remember, you know that NPA as an institution has been ravaged. A number of key institutions were damaged. You go to ESCOM, a number of areas.
But the president announced last year that he will, strengthen such institutions.
But it's on cost doing that. If you go to NPA now, NPA is beginning to take off the ground because a lot of vacancies have been closed. President has put resources to turn it around. We expect NPA to demonstrate that it can actually buy it because a lot of resources have been put there. I don't doubt the president. We've actually appointed a CEO in terms of what to call of ESCOM, a number of other institutions. You go to SARS, Nugget gave a report. After that report, a new appointed. I can go on and go on. There's a series of intervention, but it cannot be done once in a minute or over a day.
Okay, lastly from my side, I hear the number of interventions that you've, just talked us through, but people are of the view that the president isn't so decisive.
Well, I don't know what must he do in order to demonstrate decisiveness. The president presented 7 priorities last year. He's going to give a progress report today. He spoke about 5 fundamental goals. He's going to give a progress report there. I would advise people to listen to the speech and check what progress is there. Then that decision of whether the president is promising and promising, let's actually test the presentation that he's going to make today.
And indeed, we will actually be listening to that speech quite attentively. Thank you so much for your time. Let me go back to my colleague, Samgela Maseko.
Yes, indeed, politicians are still coming in, Natasha. We've got Mandla Mandela and Mrs. Mandela donning one who may say Xhosa regalia here today. They are looking ravaging in their particular item. Mr. Mandla Mandela, yet another SONA, yet another speech. What are the people of Mvezo getting this time around, except empty promises?
Well, first and foremost, our people in Mvezo look to SONA with pride, because they know that one of their own is there, is representing them. But most importantly, they love the manner we are able to carry their tradition and culture and uphold their own values. But I think our people in Mvezo look to the basic needs being addressed, such as the inaccessibility of clean drinkable water, which they still don't have today, dams being built in the area. They are looking for job opportunities to come around. But they have truly been able to see this government at work, because we have seen schools such as the Mandela School of Science and Technology being built there at support of Siemens with 100 million rands. We've seen the likes of the Makatule Wanika Mandela Primary School at 30 million rands being built by the Dr. Chung Foundation. And Nolusapo Kindergarten with 5 million rands by the Alimdad Foundation. So even though has come to the community, they still look for the ANC-led government to address the basic needs that our people want to have addressed.
Mr. Mandela, the Eastern Cape is the home of what many people say, the home of political legends. You look at the Eastern Cape today, the government is failing to eradicate pit toilets. There are deplorable socio-economic conditions in a province that has given South Africa 2 presidents, former President Ntata Rolihlahla Mandela, former President Mbeki. The province is simply not delivering to the people. What can they do with such a rich political history to make sure that rich political history counts for something when it comes to infrastructure development and upward mobility economically for them?
Well, you would have seen that during the holidays in December, I spoke out during the toilet scandal in Ofimvaba, where cleanly disappeared without any toilets being built. And we are calling for the leadership to be held accountable that authorized that payment, and that company also for filing such a fraudulent application to be also held accountable. And I think the ANC-led government today needs to ensure that it takes action against the ills that we are witnessing. If we do not curb corruption, this generations to come.
What do you say about those who say you are reaching onto the legacy of your grandfather for your own political upward mobility?
My grandfather latched on Nkosi Mphakanyiswa's legacy. Nkosi Mphakanyiswa latched on Mandela's legacy. We are of the same forefathers, and we just continue to serve our people with pride.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mandla Mandela and Mrs. Mandla Mandela. Back to you in studio in Auckland Park. That was Mandla Mandela saying that he does not take exception or does not take it with a hard heart of those who are saying he's reaching onto the legacy of his own grandfather. That would be Utata Nelson Mandela. Also speaking of how issues of tender scandals are ravaging the province of the Eastern Cape, a province that has produced many liberation icons for this country. You speak of your Robert Subukas, your Govan Mbekis, and the likes of Utata Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. Your Chris Hannies also come from this province that has produced a number of liberation icons and politicians to this country. Back to you in Auckland Park.
All right, Samkelo, thank you so much, Samkelo Maseko, they're live in Parliament. So we don't have enough time, but we've seen a number of people coming through. Minister of Small Business Development, Kumbutso Chaveni, in his vintage, a bit of fascinator right there.
Yes, and I also like the fact that she's wearing South Africa.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So vintage?
Proudly South African.
Yeah.
I love that. I think one of the things that we must always look forward to is how our members of Parliament supporting small businesses and just wearing South Africa.
As per the president's
yeah,
call.
we don't want people to be wearing international brands.
ANC MP Mandla Mandela, his style
I look forward to seeing the couple.
Tradition. Beautiful.
You know, I always look forward to seeing what he's going to be wearing, and obviously which wife he's coming with. But they always look amazing. They always just stay true to who they are. Cosa Nostra on steroids. But I also see that he has also channeled a little bit of Organes, a little bit of Nigeria, and brought it home, but brought it solidly on the African soil. I love it. I'll always look forward to seeing him. And Pinky Kakara look amazing as well. I just felt like it's also very long. The tail is long. It's uncomfortable.
Mamela, we've run out of time. But thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you so much.
Tema, creative and founding director for PlusFab, talking to us about fashion in Parliament. A quick ad break. So when we come back at the top of the hour, we take you live to Parliament.
1700 Central Africa time. You're watching S8 today, but all eyes on Cape Town as we count down to the State of the Nation address.
Yes, indeed. So we're not going to waste any time because we have our team who's there in Parliament. We say good afternoon once again to Sakina.
Well, thank you so much, Palisa and Peter. And 1 hour and 59 minutes to be exact as we count down to a State of the Nation Address 2020. And here at Parliament, of course, the team with me. But of course, at this point, I think the stakes are really heating up because the fashion sense, not only that, but also still getting some of those anticipations, the expectations and the previews. And the team out in full force. Let's cross to one of the team members now. Samkelo Maseke is there and we'll find out who he's with now. Samkelo?
Yes, Sakina, we are with Oka Mbalula, the big boss, as he calls it. Well, he's the former big boss of what was once the ANC Youth League. Well, now they call it the eldership of NYTT. Well, I wonder if the big boss is actually delivering reliable transport to our people. Are you giving our people reliable transport, Minister, or are you also just simply failing?
No, the years of failing probably will come, but for now we are hard at work. In less than a year, we are fixing a whole lot, getting our IPTN, Integrated Public Transport Network, on the going, where there's been bottlenecks, getting that going. But over and above that, fixing the railway. I mean, it will be fixed in less than a year, and then we'll be getting that going. So we are here about turning things around, looking at the taxi industry, making it a point that it is a sunrise industry, getting it regulated, negotiating a big deal with the taxi industry is coming up this year. So transport is on the go.
Do you actually have any service provider in the transport industry paying for this outfit since they once paid, the sports facilities paid for a trip abroad?
No, man. I mean, when some girl you like to take people off the rails, there's no such a thing. So this outfit has been here for some time in terms of me and going to Nigeria long before and so on. So I'm not here to account about it, but nonetheless, since you are interested, nobody paid for it.
Thank you very much, Minister of Transport. Fantastic. The big boss.
Fantastico, lovely.
Well, I'm just going to bring in quickly the Minister of Tourism, Mrs. Kainsani Kubai, and ask her directly, is the coronavirus currently taking place in China and in the world? You're looking ravishing, by the way, with your husband, if one may say. Is this virus affecting us and affecting the tourism industry in this country currently?
Yeah, definitely it will affect us because you'd remember that China is one of our target markets, and therefore we are going to have to suffer from those who are not coming to the country. We are having a Meetings Africa in February, and we had to replace those who were coming from China specifically. So the impacts, it's going to be there, but I think we can be able to recover. We've done a lot of work in China. We're just looking for the health teams to say to us it has stopped, and therefore we're ready to receive tourists. We're comfortable with the work that we have done and will be able to recover. At least if it can finish before the second quarter, I know for the year we'll have our numbers.
Thank you very much, Minister Kubai. That was Minister Kubai. You, Natasha, with the Minister of Communications. I hope you throw some difficult questions to her.
Well, thank you very much. And to our SABC viewers who've just joined us, welcome to the SONA 2020 red carpet. And of course, I'm joined by the also fashionable Minister of Communications, Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's talk about your outfits.
Well, my outfit is locally produced, as you have seen. It's done by the House of Ole. Of course, like the queen that I am, we decided, let's make sure that there's some royalty whilst we're keeping quiet. No noise, but let them feel it, the queen is here.
So, queen, what inspired the outfit?
What inspired the outfit was to say, you know what, because I'm a bit of a young adult, I'm above 40, therefore throw it, baby, so that they can see the youth in you and the adult at the same time.
Yes, show us the youth. Thank you so much, Minister. So, I mean, coming to issues of the fourth industrial revolution, I mean, how ready is your department to actually implement in rural areas?
well as the department, you will know that we are working together with the Presidential Commission on the 4th Industrial Revolution that the President appointed. Now we're finalizing the report. That will be a blueprint of South Africa to say what are we identifying as the role for South Africa in the 4th Industrial Revolution. All we are saying is that we've seen lots of reforms. All we are saying is that our people have continued to be spectators of the economy that we're talking about. And this is the time that we should not miss out. This is the time that South Africans must participate meaningfully in the economy. And that talks about us unbundling all the infrastructure that is there. If we're talking about the 4th Industrial Revolution, it tells you of the digital infrastructure that's the basis of the 4th Industrial Revolution. Who are these people that are rolling out fiber? Where is this fiber produced? Who buys it? As we talk about the building of the towers, you've had the operators. Who are the people that are building the towers? And what components can South Africa really build and provide to them so that as we grow the economy, as they make the investment in our country, at least a huge chunk of that investment gets to be invested locally, and therefore our economy grows. That's our story.
Well, let me just cross over to my colleague Samkele Masego, who's actually waiting to cross with Ubegicele.
Yes, indeed. The Minister of Police is on my left-hand side, but I'm going to bring in the hour, the public protector. Some interesting faces you had there at your 50th birthday party. Happy belated 50th.
Thank you, Sabelo. You know, 50th, the year of Golden Jubilee for me. You know, restoration, recovery, and release. So I'm ready for this year, and you know, I'll take things as they come.
Well, one may say you don't look 50 at all. You look like my age group. Maybe I can try to put in a CV or two there.
No, don't take chances, Savelo. Don't.
But
grandmother as well, do you know, with two grandsons.
But on a more serious note, public protector, there are serious issues taking place around your office. That you are going after the incumbent of the day, President Cyril Ramaphosa. You are seen to be playing factional politics within the ANC. Is there any credence to this, particularly with the likes of Mzwandile Masina at your party, Msebenzi Zwane, Bongani Pongo?
You know, that's not true. And you remember those complaints were lodged by the DA. And as the public protector at Chapter 9 institution, I do my work without fear or favor. And I'm here to strengthen constitutional democracy. I'm here to make sure that all issues are dealt with and we eradicate corruption. And leaders are ethical and they lead by example. So there's nothing like that. I'm a protector. There's people I would invite, there's people who will bring their own friends, and as blacks, anyway, you don't even need to be invited. You can even come, as long as you hear that the public protector has a party. So I don't think that is a proper thing to say. I'm not a politician. I don't even play in factional battles. Thank you.
Thank you very much, public protector. But I wonder if this particular man right here is going to be voting for you if they decide to have a vote of no confidence against the public protector. Will he be voting for her?
The public protector said something about me there. I'm not saying anything about public protector.
Will you be voting for her if there's a vote of no confidence or against?
Vote is always a secret thing.
So you're not even saying you're going to be voting for her or not?
Vote is always a secret thing. Keep it there.
Are you still bitter?
About
the reports about you at the public protector's office?
Absolutely. The public protector doing their work, and if they find whatever they found, I'm very sure that I'm fine with her as a person, but I don't agree with her finding, hence those findings.
Do you agree with the findings against President Ramaphosa?
Well, President Ramaphosa is here. He's an old man. He's fine, can talk for himself.
Mr. Tele, South Africans are looking to be secure in their country. How are you providing security to us to make sure that the scourge of is eradicated?
Well, that's a big one you're talking about, not just gender-based violence, even the children. For instance, in this province where we are, our children are very much endangered, and the elderly. We know what to do. The Constitution instructs us as the police in the Republic of South Africa and other things like code of conduct of the police and all that. Ours is just the president to come and whip us, but not necessarily that we expect him to tell us what we're supposed to do. We know what to do.
The SG of the ANC made a joke about you in Durban this past weekend, that you wanted to contest to be the regional chair of eThekwini, and the NEC said no. Do you still harbor any ambitions of going back home?
Well, if it was a joke, let's keep it as a joke. we can't make a joke serious. Okay, as you said, it's a joke. Let's keep it a joke. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ktele and Mrs. Ktele. All the best for tonight. That was the Minister of Police, Peggy Ktele, there on speaking on the various issues, particularly around policing of the country, and saying that gender-based violence must be eradicated. But rather interesting, some of the comments he had about the public protector, should there be a vote of no confidence against it. Remember, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Thandi Modise, has instituted a process of removing the public protector with all political parties being represented within that particular committee that the Speaker has set up within the National Assembly. I'm going to throw to my colleague Natasha Piri, who has a guest with her to ask some pertinent questions as well.
Well, thank you so much, Sam. I'm joined by the Deputy Minister of Cogta, Tate Obed Bapela. Thank you so much, and your partner, of course. Before I get to you, let me just see what the madam is wearing. I love the dress. Just tell us, who are you wearing, the concept behind it? I see some Swati material there.
Yeah. Well, the designer is Linda Mguni. She's based in Maboneng, and I come from the royal family. So we are based in Mpumalanga. So I'm Swati, Nkuluma Swati. So I think that's where the whole design concept comes from.
You know, as you can see, you've got Swati embroiderment there at the back. I love the cape, a silk cape, and of course you've got butterflies there, royal Swati butterflies fit for the occasion. You look very lovely, might I say them. And Tate Obed, let's get down to the crux of the matter. I mean, what is your department doing to tackle issues, more especially around the deaths of especially at bogus initiation schools?
I'm so happy that finally the NCOP is processing the bill on cultural initiation, a bill that we think once it's passed by Parliament and the President signs it into law, hoping that by May the law will be in place. It will help us in reducing the deaths. And the NCOP is now consulting in the provinces, and then they will then bring it back to the NCOP and then invite us as a department and other stakeholders just to say, here's the bill, we're about to pass it. And once it's done, I just hope that the process does not delay, because losing 27 young people 2019 summer initiation was a sad thing. We just want to cap it once and for all. However, we're not waiting for the bill. We'll also be going down to Eastern Cape now in March to go and engage with Cogta there, traditional leaders and communities, and say, what is it that has killed the children? Majority of them dies of hydration, meaning the summer is too much on them. We'll just want to engage and see if we can no longer take our children to winter rather than the summer because of dehydration. But also there are those who are saying you must not drink water 7 days before you go in and 7 days whilst you are in, or refuse water altogether. And that is a myth to go in the communities and address it and say water is important, they must drink water, because now the body, if it lacks water, they will die.
Well, thank you so much, Ntate Bapela. Let's go over to Samgele Masego.
Natasha, indeed, we've got two young people from Mpumalanga who are members of parliament, a province that is currently going through a political difficulty. But I'm going to bring in Tim Mashele, a member of parliament of the ANC, particularly on what they want to hear from the President Cyril Ramaphosa on issues facing young people.
Thank you very much, Lord of the Media, and greetings to South Africa. We are here today in this process where we're going to listen to the President, talking to the nation. Of course, as young people, we have got an interest to hear the President speak about unemployment and programs that will deal with the issue of unemployment, such that young people can be employed in the country in this difficult time of the economy of the country and the world.
I'm going to bring in the former Deputy President of the ANC Youth League, Desmond Mwele. Mr. Mwele, is there any significant voice for young people in this country anymore, particularly within the National Assembly? We're not hearing anything that young people are saying or doing in this parliament.
Well, I'm not so sure if you're not hearing anything, but we are doing very well as young people in parliament. That is why we are contributing to the progress of this parliament as young people. So even now we are here to listen to the President. We have contributed based on what he's going to say and based on the progress on what he has delivered in the previous year.
How can young people take the both of you serious when the both of you are part of a youth league that is what Pule Mabe describes as an these days, speaking willy-nilly and speaking louder than the ANC? Which young people are the both of you representing?
Well, I don't know. You can ask Pule that one, but I don't take Pule serious also. At some point, I don't take Pule serious because always when he speaks, he's just loud-hailing. So I can't respond on behalf of Pule.
Why don't you take your own spokesperson serious?
He's not my spokesperson. He's the spokesperson of the ANC. That's why I'm saying I don't take him serious. At some point when he speaks, I don't take whatever he says serious.
Do you agree with that?
During a time of turbulence, people must be calm. We are going through a difficult process, not only as the ANC Youth League, but as young people in the country. We have got challenges, and I think we're going to rise above. We have got the necessary capacity to rise above our challenges.
Natasha, that is all up to you now to ask those pertinent questions.
Thank you so much. I'm joined by Reverend Meshwe and his wife, who's always by his side. Ma'am Meshwe, what are we wearing this year?
We are wearing gold, just to try and bring some light, you know, in this darkness. With ESCOM, we decided as people of the light to bring light to Parliament.
And who's dressing you?
It's a new guy, actually. His name is James in Johannesburg. Yes, ma'am.
And of course, your expectations once again.
People are worried, and we are worried about what for years we have been saying is a ticking time bomb. High unemployment rate. We want to see a reversal of the increase of unemployment to an increase in employment opportunities. We want jobs to be created because the economy of South Africa will not improve if jobs are not created. So we want today to hear about something new, not what we have been told all these years, because it is like a broken record. Same thing that does not happen. Empty promises. This year, we want reality. What is government going to do to stop the high rate of unemployment in South Africa so that our people can have jobs? And again, what is government going to do to ensure that the lights are kept on? We are tired of lights that are always going off because of ESCOM failures. And to bail out for ESCOM, he can try businesses somewhere, but not state pension. Pension belongs to the workers and it must not be touched to bail out ESCOM.
Okay, thank you so much, Reverend Meshwe. And of course, let me cross back to my colleague, Samgele Masego.
It's fine, yeah. That's fine. I'm looking for someone, guys. Yes, Natasha, I'm looking for one of the ministers who's currently on this particular red carpet to throw some pertinent questions to them. You've got the Minister of Land Reform, Togo Didiza, coming through on this red carpet. I'm going to bring her on board now to speak to some of the issues that South Africans are facing when it particularly comes to the land question, and if they will be taking some land of this particular country. Natasha, I'm going to ask you to come back and interview some of the guests that you have there right now.
Once again, welcome back. Once again, I'm joined by the leader of the FF Plus, Mr. Peter Groenewald. Thank you so much. And of course, your partner, ladies first, then we'll come to you. Mrs. Groenewald, who are you wearing? What is the style inspiration behind your outfit?
Style inspiration is my husband. He loved ties, but I bought my own ties. And a dear friend of mine, a dressmaker, Paulina from Stilfontein, helped me design it, and she made the dress for me.
Okay, so this is a variety of different ties on your dress.
That's right.
Quite interesting. So, Mr. Groenewald, I guess you shouldn't have actually worn a tie today.
Well, it's not my ties, but I suppose after that I'll think I can gain some of them.
Mr. Groenewald, you're quite a big critic about land compensation. What are you expecting to hear out of the President today?
Well, if you refer specifically to expropriation without compensation, of course we're objecting to that very strongly. And we will do everything we can to stop expropriation without compensation. But what I want to hear tonight from the President is practical steps he is going to take, he and his government, to ensure that the crises in South Africa are solved, like unemployment, the fact that the SOEs are bankrupt, We say that we don't want to hear about another summit that's going to take place or turnaround strategies or taking the state pension fund to finance, for instance, Eskom. That's totally unacceptable. He must come forward with practical steps. And I said before, if you want to turn around the economy in South Africa, do away with black economic empowerment, do away with and stop expropriation without compensation. Lastly, I want to decide tonight whether the President puts the interests of South Africa above the interests of the ANC. I hope that he will put South Africa first.
Well, Mr. Peter Groenewald asking then, somewhat imploring the President to put the needs of South Africans first. Let me cross over to my colleague Samgele Masego, who's actually joined by another guest.
Well, Natasha, the lady of the hour politically within what was once a mighty ANC Youth League, Thandi Mahambetala, looking ravaging as usual. So always stunning, always fire, always spice. Even in NEC meetings, spice, spice, spice. The lady who told the president that, "Hey, President, we don't see what you are doing." Huh? What did you say in that NEC?
I did not say anything. I was quiet, sitting there calm and collected. I wouldn't have said.
Why is Pesani running away from you? Mr. Spongile Pesani, the coordinator? Why is he running away?
Pesani is back, from what I know. He did not run away. We know no sort of thing because we did not receive any letter from him that informs us of his resignation. So I don't know the running away of him.
I just saw a letter now saying that there are audits that have been signed off and they weren't signed off by him, and he's just basically cancelled the entire 50% audit of the Youth League that has been done. Are you failing as the convener?
There is no audit in the first place that has been done. What has been happening in the Youth League, it is the verification of membership. You can't audit before you verify what you have in terms of membership. Remember, part of rebuilding and renewing the Youth League, it's about building structures of the African National Congress Youth League. Now, before you get to audit, you must know how much structures you have.
But you are lying, Mr. Ndimambe, because here's a letter which I want my viewers to also see. Kindly note, the ANC Youth League audit, which is underway, will not be signed off and approved by myself as coordinator of NYTT. This is based on the fact that the Youth League team responsible for the process was set up without my knowledge and sanctioning. That is Bongile Pesani with his signature, NYTT coordinator. Are you playing factional politics, the both of you?
The fact is, there is no audit that has been done. We are busy with verification of membership. Once we know what we have, in fact, through the BGMs and the AGMs of the ANC Youth League, then we'll have the audit. Audit has not started. We're busy with verification. And we took a decision in our meetings, Samkelo, that verification and audit is going to be handled by ANC for all fairness and for us to be able to unleash a credible conference and a credible process. The ANC is the one that is in charge with the responsibility of verification and audit. I know no letter of Sibongile Person.
You don't know this letter signed today on the 13th of February 2020? Today? You don't know it?
I'm seeing it for the first time in your phone. I haven't seen that letter, but I know for a fact that now we're busy with verification, not the audit. So I don't know.
Did he resign because you issued out a statement saying that the NYTT supports former President Zuma and he just signed it and never knew anything about it?
I can't speak about his resignation because he never submitted the letter to the NYTT to say he was resigning. So as long as the letter was not submitted to us, for me, it's a rumor.
Are you still one of the firm supporters of former President Zuma?
I'm a supporter of the African National Congress, the organization, not any individual.
Are you running a parallel process within the ANC Youth League?
There will never be a parallel process. We are in charge. The process is one, led by the ANC, and that's it.
You are in charge and Pesani is running away.
We are in charge. Myself and Pesani are in charge. We means myself and him.
But you don't know a letter that he issued out today?
No, I don't know a letter because, in fact, the letter is not factual because now we're busy with verification and it is the ANC that is busy with that process. That's why I'm here.
They call her the Tsar of the ANC Youth League. Thandi Mahambetala, over to you, Natasha.
Mam Chaben, thank you so much for joining us. First and foremost, what are you wearing? I see you're wearing a vintage outfit. Who are you wearing?
I'm wearing Just Poppy by Poppy Merege from Limpopo in Bembe.
And what was the concept behind your outfit?
She wanted to dress me, and I'm not a person of all the fluffy and whatever, so I said I'll also be working, so I need to be simple, I need to be comfortable, I need to be me. I kind of like the vintage stuff. I guess I'm an old soul.
Okay, definitely. So, Minister, I mean, you're tasked with heading quite a big, department. We've got a high unemployment rate. We're at 29.1%. But I mean, take us through the strides of your ministry, what your ministry has done so far, and what we can expect the president to speak to in terms of unemployment.
So we have done a few things. We have improved our access from young people and women and just entrepreneurs from rural and township areas to access our services. And we knew the complexity of completing too many forms to do that. So we then developed one single form where you can apply for funding or support from SEDA, CIFA, NEF, and the department using one form. That's one. But we have also partnered with municipalities so that our services can be accessible because they are closest to the people. Their LED units are able to guide people in terms of accessing our services. But we have also gone out to find entrepreneurs, those who are not able to complete forms, those who are scared to complete forms, those who have ideas, who think, my dear, may not come and pitch and get funding or get support. And we've gone out to provinces. We still continue to go out to provinces. But we've also gone on a roadshow on information session, because the other problem with our entrepreneurs is that they do not have information, or they do not know what is available, what's there to support them. That's what we have done. We have also started to extend our network of incubators, because most people, when they start to start their businesses, they don't know how to run the business. So you need a helping hand. You need somebody who will guide you. You need somebody who will advise you. So we've extended that network, and we want to extend it to make sure that it's closest to our people in rural areas and in our townships, but also be accessible to our young people. We have partnered with TVET colleges. We've got centers for entrepreneurship and rapid incubation. So we've done that so much, and we have been, in our efforts, we have focused on how do we support women entrepreneurs.
Okay, Minister, I'm just going to have to cut you there. And actually,
well, the IFP is certainly in Parliament, led by their President Velankosini Hlabisa and their parliamentary leader Utata Umntwana Ubaba Mangosuthu Buthelezi. But I'm going to bring in the IFP President Ubaba Hlabisa and Mrs. Hlabisa, looking ravaging as usual, the couple from the north of KwaZulu-Natal. How are you, Ubaba Hlabisa?
No, we are doing very well, my brother, and I want to greet the listeners and the viewers of SABC this afternoon.
Mr. Hlabisa, your party, the IFP in Johannesburg, has just voted with the ANC recently. Yet there's another deal in KwaZulu-Natal where Umaspala was saying, if you go to particularly the likes of Vryheid, those particular municipalities, Echozini, the ANC is going after your municipality. Is the IFP speaking with a forked tongue and divided on this particular issue of coalition partners?
No, the IFP is not divided on the issue of coalition. As you know, there is a big agenda for reconciliation between the ANC and the IFP. So that is a discussion on the table. What is happening in Johannesburg is not in conflict of what is happening in KwaZulu-Natal. We believe in a multi-approach for the best interest of the people of our country.
So you are saying that you are willing to go in a coalition with the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal?
The issue, as I'm saying, that is on the table, there is a bigger agenda of reconciliation between the two political parties. We are not opposed in working with anyone as long as it is in the best interest of our people.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hlabisa. Before I'm going to bring in Phumzile van Dam. Thank you very much, Mr. Hlabisa, for that particular interview. And the one question to her, you're looking beautiful, by the way. I'm loving your particular outfit. When are you resigning from the DA?
I'm still a member of parliament. I have no intention to resign. Why do you want me to resign?
Are you not following Musa Maimane, your former leader?
No, I'm not.
Are you not following Herman Mashaba?
No, I'm not.
Why not?
I'm happy in the DA.
Seriously?
Yes.
Who are you voting for? John Steenhuisen or Mbalintuli?
I haven't decided yet. I still have to see what each candidate has to offer, and then I'll make my decision.
Not even John Moody?
I'll have to make my decision. They must campaign, they must canvass me, they must, I don't vote for a person based on your personality, I vote for you based on your offer. So each candidate needs to come and campaign and let me hear what it is they have to offer.
Have you had a meeting with Helen Zille about what she stands for?
Well, I mean, she's a leader in the party. We have conversations all the time. I have conversations with John Steenhuisen, I have conversations with Helen Zille, with Mbali Ntulu, they're colleagues. So we have conversations all the time.
What's your view on racial diversity within the DA?
Well, I think diversity is something that's in our constitution. That's part of the constitution hasn't been removed, so diversity is something that we still believe in.
Thank you very much, Phumzile van Dam.
Can I just say hello to my colleague Cameron McKenzie? We serve on the committee together. I'm glad to have him here. He was involved in a robbery earlier this year and he was shot. So I'm really happy to see him here. We serve on the same committee.
Well, thank you very much. So all the best. Hope you recover soon and hopefully. I'm just going to bring in Ngaba Banga for one last time. Mr. Banga, what's going on in there in that Nelson Mandela Bay of yours?
We are taking it over. We are submitting a motion very soon. People of Nelson Mandela would have a DA mayor very soon. We are very confident this time. They need to be safe because everything has been destroyed, everything has collapsed there in Nelson Mandela. More than 20 people were killed because of issues. National Treasurer wants to take 800 million out of Nelson Mandela. Therefore, when the DA governs, we spend money in infrastructure, we spend money in services, and that's what we do, and we do it better when we govern, and the people are waiting for that day when the DA govern. We are going to announce our mayoral candidate very soon. All parties have started to support the DA because the people of Nelson Mandela need to be saved.
I wonder who's that mayoral candidate. Maybe it's you, who knows?
Why not? It could be me.
That was Ngaba Banga. Back to you, Natasha, with Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma.
Well, thank you so much, Samgele. I'm joined by Imbogo Tezitu. I don't know, where should I start? Let me just start off with Mamlosi. Mama, what are the workers expecting from the president? Can they expect the president to take them into confidence that, listen, he will change around the economic trajectory, he will turn around the SOEs?
Indeed, the expectation of the workers is to hear the president talking about how we're going to build and strengthen this economy, because it does not matter whether you are located in the private sector or in the public sector. What is important is how we are going to save Eskom. And I want to hear the president pronouncing, at least on the broad principle framework, on how we're all going to work together as stakeholders in the entity that is called Eskom, because in hospitals, in our correctional services, at home, in the firms, in the mining companies, we all rely on Eskom. For the foreign direct investment to come to our country and we're able to create jobs, we need to have an entity that is able to generate enough electricity to drive and build this economy. So as workers, we're here to also say, we're not just only here to listen, but we're saying, how are we going to work together with the president and his whole cabinet in building an economy that is going to be able to create employment, but also be able to retain the current jobs that we have in our country.
Thank you so much. I'm going to have to keep this conversation short, so I'm going to have to come to the Minister of Culture. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining us on SABC. Mama, I mean, service delivery is a huge problem. You know, we've been seeing lots of municipalities that are now put under administration. I mean, what is your department doing to actually, you know, deal with such a crisis? And of course, will the president actually address this issue? I know the district development model has been introduced to address issues of service delivery in various municipalities across the country.
Yes, we're going to be rolling it out this year. If you recall, we just launched a few pilots last year, and this year we're going to be rolling it out. And part of the issue about municipalities is not just the municipalities, it's that government as a whole should work together at the district level, so that if we talk about water, all the departments that have to deal with that are there, from national, province, and local. If we're dealing with roads, everybody to be there, the national department, the provincial, and the local, so that we can make an impact on the ground. But also, if we have one plan that we are all working towards, and we have one budget, there would be transparency about how that budget is being used, whether it's being used for what it's supposed to be. But the most important other thing is there is lots of unemployment in this country. So how are we going to use the districts to identify the potential of each district and then make sure that we develop that potential, and young people, women, then get employment, or form co-ops and work together and create wealth for themselves. So we expect the president to talk about the economy, but the economy is not in the air. Everything happens at a district. So that's where the economy is. But how new entrants into the economy, we expect to talk about that we can indeed create jobs and get the economy going. And of course, we also expect him to talk about women, not just gender-based violence, but how women are to participate in the economy in every area of human endeavor in this country, because they are more than 50% of the population. They also produce the other half. So it's very important that they participate. If they don't, this country will never reach its full potential.
Minister, just on a lighter note, before I let you go, let's talk about your dress. I see lovely colors, black and orange. Who are you dressing today? I mean, who designed this dress for you and the inspiration behind this dress?
You know what I normally do? I normally just buy African cloth, as you can see, and then take it to be designed. It's African inspired, and I'll always be African inspired.
Thank you so much, Minister. Well, there the minister saying that she is proudly African, and proudly African she is indeed. Well, Sakina, most guests are actually starting to make their way inside the chambers. I'm told that more people are actually told to get off the red carpet, as guests have to go inside Parliament and be seated by 6 o'clock so that the bells could actually ring. But as for me here at the red carpet, it's back to you.
And that was absolutely riveting. A red carpet with a twist, and what a sting that twist was. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Let me just tell you who's in studio with me once again, in case you weren't with us earlier on. We have SABC editors, political editor and parliamentary editors, Zwandile Mbeje and Buyani Green, and of course Aldrin St. Pierre, back from his little red carpet stint. That jacket is everything.
But unfortunately, I am sitting here with you guys and my jacket is not out there flourishing.
Well, you can make like the Matrix and pull some punches here in studio, you know, like we saw there on the red carpet. And, you know, so many things came out of that engagement on the red carpet. I actually don't know where to start. You know, there was so much to pick up on.
It was a red carpet with a difference. You know, ordinarily when people come to the red carpet, they expect to just show off what is it that they're wearing. But here is the thing. So this is a very serious speech that the president is coming to address. He's coming to tell the nation what is it that he intends to do. And these people here, ministers and lawmakers, are the ones who are supposed to craft some of those laws. So some of the issues really that we need answers to are from these people. So that is why, as much as we asked them about their fashion, but we wanted them to account about some of the things that they are doing and that has been reported about them. So that's why I'm saying this was a red carpet with a difference.
Yeah. Certainly, because the other thing is that when you watch the interview that Samkela had with Thandi Mahamba-Ehlala, is that you cannot divorce politics from the executive and those who carry out the day-to-day roles in terms of making sure that there's service delivery. Because if you look at the ANC Youth League and how the ANC Youth League has been struggling to be stable, now they have this Congress that is supposedly supposed to be coming out, and now you have the statement that is out from Usibongile Pesana. It tells you that there's a youth league that is unstable, but that also has an influence on how the party's trajectory is in terms of when it comes to service delivery. That's what I believe, certainly, because some of these people, some of these young people, are people who are also pushing the mother body to say that we want to also be part of the executive. Yes. But can you surely say that you have what it takes to be part of the executive, but you can't get your house in order?
Yes. But the problem, of course, is that if the ANC is honest with itself, there has not really been a youth league. That youth league has been a semblance of its former self, a youth league that used to be the kingmakers within the party at conferences. After the expulsion of Julius Malema and others, that youth league really hasn't taken root, Rian?
Absolutely. I think many people still remember the youth league during the days of Malema, even during the days of Maile. You know, it did not inspire much confidence, especially among young people. Became driven by tensions, factionalism, and all those kinds of issues. But the point I wanted to say is that I think a lot of MPs can take a leaf out of Samkelo's tenacious pursuit for truth. The manner in which you know, he asked those politicians is a kind of that I think the public demands from their elected representatives, especially for those people who exercise public power, those people who allocated public resources to, you know, to deliver service to our people. So I think what we've just witnessed right now, for me, it's accountability at its best. And that's why I'm saying that I think if many of these elected public representatives can do the same thing, we can see a different government.
Indeed. But you know, Aldrin, one of the other things, Zandile, that I've also noticed there, when the ANC leaders are held accountable as they were on that red carpet there, and they speak, they almost speak in the third person. They are almost detached from what is actually happening. So then who's supposed to account?
Well, this is quite interesting. In fact, I think two things that are coming out of this discussion that we've been seeing. First, you can see the deep divisions. Some of the questions they can't answer, some of the very simple basic questions. I mean, there was an issue around who are you voting for? Are you voting for the public protector or not? So that just told you that we are not united on this one. I mean, especially against the evidence that some of your comrades of this very person you are seeking to remove. And the third person speak gives an indication to South Africans to say, these myriad challenges that we are facing and they are not being addressed, are these people in touch with what is happening? Yes, they can claim to be in touch. But if in a town like Kimberley, in a city like Kimberley, you still find sewage on the street, and then the premier is just around the corner, the council is just around the corner, so what's the problem? I mean, you can argue and say those far-flung areas, in the rural areas, perhaps we were not there, we didn't see, we didn't know. But what about those that are 2 kilometers away from you? You still can't address them.
Certainly. And I think the other point about this is when you have those divisions playing out, because certainly for the minister not to be able to answer that, Begitele not be able to answer that, that what is the next step forward, it is because the ANC itself doesn't know what the next step forward is. There's no concrete decision. You have, for instance, Usupra Maumapilo, who was quite clear that they are happy with the public protector, but there are voices within the ANC that are not happy with the public protector and that want the public protector to go. But Vuyani, for me, what is interesting about how this is playing out is that if you compare the two, if you compare former President Jacob Zuma when he had his little turf with the former public protector Thuli Madonsela, and compare this turf between the president as well as the public protector, taking her all the way to the court. Once upon a time, remember that Nomvula Mokonyane used to say, or once said, yeah. But this current president doesn't have that defense mechanism.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one in the sense that some of the issues with regard to this current president, they relate to the time when, for instance, he was the member of parliament. And some of those issues, they relate to whether did he disclose or make disclosure, because as a deputy president, you're a member of parliament. But once you are elected into office as a president, you resign your seat. You're no longer a member of parliament. So that's why I'm saying that this one, it's very difficult. We'll have to wait and see how the courts, now that this matter has been taken to the court, how the court will adjudicate this matter. But clearly it's a matter that's going to divide the ANC, certainly the ANC caucus here in parliament.
But for me, it's the party, let's leave out the executive, let's leave out the members of parliament, but the party itself. I remember listening to Gwede Mantashe and how Gwede Mantashe would say that when you attack the president of the ANC, in this case it was President Jacob Zuma at the time, when you attack the president of the ANC, what the ANC does is that it closes ranks. But ngathi kuyavuzwa.
No, to what extent though? Because if you go back, for example, to the arms deal, the reason why we didn't see the sort of prosecution and consequences from the arms deal is because of exactly that, that the ANC closes ranks. We are talking right now about the Commission of Inquiry into allegations of state capture. Where are the consequences? So to a certain degree, one could argue the party is quite adept at closing rank when it really matters. But you know, to what extent, to what letter and degree will that be allowed to continue?
You know, here is my summation about the state of affairs in our country. It goes back to the party, to a divided party. Right now, they are not even able to say something as simple as what is going to happen to SAA. You and I may think we know the position of the ANC, but at the weekend, a member of the top six will say something else. That is different from what we had been told. So that points to the divisions within the party. So as a result, it becomes very difficult for them to then move with one clear purpose on any issue.
But why are we surprised by that? If we look at the margins of victory at Nasrec, the balance of forces have always been on a knife's edge. Therefore, nothing has changed since then.
I agree, certainly. And also what it says, Sakina, is that the unity that they've preached, they're working towards it, has been very elusive. So they've not been able, I mean, Nasrec happened in 2017, we're in 2020 now. So if you listen to the president when he gets to the podium, he tells you about the unity. So what is it that is really elusive? I mean, we are two years away from the next conference, and that unity is still being the issue. And that is why there are voices already who are saying they may test the waters at the NGC.
Could it be, Vuyadis, just quickly, could it be that the ATM and all the denials that there have been that the ATM is linked to the Secretary General of the ANC, that using the ATM to test those waters that Mzwandile speaks of, test those waters in Parliament and not at the NGC. Let's try it out now and see what's going to happen. Do you think that that could be part of the machinations that are playing out?
Absolutely. I think that's the plan, because ATM has got only 2 seats in the National Assembly. And with 2 seats, there's no way that they can muster that simple majority, 201 votes, to make sure that the president is kicked out. But what is interesting and what we'll have to wait and see is whether, when that motion is tabled, whether will Parliament, the presiding officer, the Speaker, would allow a vote,
a secret ballot.
A secret ballot. Because once you allow a secret ballot, then you allow members of the ANC, of the caucus, to exercise their right. I think for me that will be the litmus test for this president, whether he has the support of his caucus.
But I think just beyond the internal wrangling within the African National Congress, this also then extends into the state. Because now you're sitting with a president who is perceived to be indecisive at best. And if you want to take it to, you know, its ultimate conclusion, there are lots of things that can be said. But the president is seen as indecisive. He is seen, and some people are actually decrying the fact that he's unable to be just firm and decisive on certain matters that people feel we need to see the president stand firm on so the country can move forward.
Exactly. That's why you see, I think there's an interview you did this morning with the State Security Minister. How do you, in 5 years, as you correctly put it, battle or just walk into the state security offices and take money out of there? So what does it say? This, true or not, gives an impression that perhaps the president may not be in charge of certain elements, key elements of the state. that is why people would do as they please. And the biggest litmus test, Vianney, the vote on the public protector, the fate of the public protector will lay bare what is happening within the ANC currently. I still maintain that the day the decision is taken on the public protector, that's when you will see people come up clearly who they for and who they are against.
So you think she's being used as a proxy?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's my belief. I mean, when Supramahumapelo came out to say he's doing a fantastic job, and then there was a statement from Lutuli House to say, hold it there. So we have not taken a position on this. We've just had on Minister Cele, who are you voting for? He says, you know, the ANC speak will be, well, we close rank. But he is saying, my vote is my secret. How, I mean, what does that say to the public? That process will then indicate where the ANC is.
But then it comes back to the role of Parliament once again, because the ANC is one thing, but the fate of the nation is quite another thing. There's this battle for the soul of the ANC, but what is this doing to the soul of the nation, Rihanna?
You see, the problem, Sakina, it goes back to the inability to differentiate between party and state.
Yeah.
And that we've seen playing itself out here in Parliament. You remember at some stage, even the former president said the ANC takes precedence over Parliament and all that. And they forget these MPs because before they assume their duties as MPs, they swear allegiance to the constitution and the laws of the country, not to a particular party. But I think it's because of our electoral system, because most MPs are deployed here by their parties, and therefore they must toe the party line. That's the problem. And that's why you find that in most caucuses of various parties here, especially the ANC and to a certain extent the official opposition, you've got Chief Whip there, whose role is to make sure that MPs, they toe party line. That's where the problem is. And I think for me, we'll have to perhaps tinker our electoral system at the national level with a constituency base, the same that obtains at the local government, so that we have MPs who are accountable to people out there, so that if those MPs don't deliver on their promises, they don't do their job, they sleep on the job, we recall them.
Yeah, I just quickly want to go back to the conversation on intelligence. I remember speaking to Mo Sheikh, who used to head, was it domestic intelligence or international intelligence? Can't remember which position he held, but he was within the intelligence sector. He says that having a minister of intelligence is problematic because you have a cabinet that sits every week or so. That cabinet sits, and there's someone in that room that potentially knows about everyone and what they've done, and that person has power over everyone in that room. He makes the suggestion and says that probably what the president should be considering is rather have a single person, an individual who's appointed at the level of the DDG or the DG that reports directly to the president. And I'm just wondering whether everything that is playing out at state security could be used as the bedrock of making and advancing that argument, that having a minister in this position is problematic.
Well, riveting discussions we are having here, and we haven't even touched on the economic freedom fighters and their plans to disrupt SONA 2020. All of that still to come, and of course we also have the red carpet still being rolled out, and the dignitaries still making their way up there, and the EFF, they are now making their entrance there, and as you can see in their traditional red overalls, they are making their way in as a unit.
Do you think they'll be leaving as a unit?
Well, it's going to be very interesting. They've told us that they are going there to get the president to account, and by hook or crook, they'll make him account. By the way, that account they're referring to is the firing of Minister Pravin Gordhan. So, but quite realistically, I mean, you and I sitting here, we know that the president can't do that.
There's no cabinet reshuffle.
Let's just say
Let's drill down there a little bit. It's not that the president can't fire.
Yeah.
Every minister serves at the behest of the president.
No, I'm just saying now. Like
well,
now, yes.
The president, people have been reshuffled at midnight, so you know, it is possible. It is well within the realms of possibility.
Yeah.
But let's talk to what this is actually about, because this here is another proxy argument. What is this call by the EFF actually about?
Well, this is, remember, EFF has made it clear that they are fighting white monopoly capital. So they view Minister Pravin Gordhan as the security guard, as they would always say, the security guard of the white monopoly capital. And then they are daring the president. In fact, they are using the arguments based on what you will say evidence of his failure. Look at the SOEs. That department is responsible for the SOEs. SAA under Business Rescue today. ESCOM, you know, all those things are evidence as far as EFF is concerned. So they are daring the president to say, you said you'll be different, you'll be a breath of fresh air, you know, English sometimes goes away. Yeah. So, can you do it? They want to see, because they know if he were to do it, for example, there's a number of people who will turn against the president. So it's really...
But is there assumption that they think that the president doesn't believe that Minister Pravin Gordhan is doing a great job?
You know, for me, quite frankly, I mean, we are in a constitutional democracy. And in any democracy, you contest election, you win the vote, you form your own government, you appoint your own ministers. I don't know why is the EFF prescribing to the president as to who should serve in President Ramaphosa's cabinet, because that's the constitutional prerogative given to the president. Of course, I know that the president, one of his constitutional responsibilities is to unify the nation and all that sort of thing. But it seems to me, the majority of people think that Pravin Gordhan, you know, is doing a fantastic job. Because at some stage, if my memory serves me well, it was the EFF which supported Pravin Gordhan during the time when he was fired by former President Jacob Zuma. This time around, they want the current president to fire, you know, Minister Pravin Gordhan. It seems to me that EFF here, you know, is speaking with the forked tongue.
Yeah, you see, now that you've made that example, for instance, then we can't. It's an argument that says that on what basis does the EFF try to influence a cabinet, the makeup of a cabinet? Because even back then, they played the exact same role. They were trying to protect a member who was on cabinet and trying to convince the public why the finance minister should remain in cabinet. Now they're playing a different role, saying that actually this guy is messing things up. But for me, the biggest question is that at which point did it turn around? And whether or not the EFF is not gullible to information that's being seeped through to them by members and senior members of the ANC.
Or is the EFF not trying to play into these factional battles within the ANC?
Yeah.
I think, one could argue that maybe perhaps they're trying to exploit some of the tensions within the ANC, because I'm pretty sure it's not only the EFF that wants Minister Pravin Gordhan gone. I'm pretty sure there are some ANC MPs who also want to see him sacked by the president.
Well, you normally hear people say EFF is ANC light.
Yeah, or the youth league of the ANC in Parliament.
Yes. Because everything that the ANC discusses, so the EFF knows about it. Particularly, Malema would tell the nation what is it that's going to be announced before anyone knows. So that kind of information is being fed to him by comrades of the ANC, from the ANC to him. Why do they do that? Because to support Vuyani, they are against Minister Pravin Gordhan, but they can't say it. So they would rather get someone else to say it. So all they will do, they will just give that information so that there's ammunition. So it's quite interesting. I mean, even if you look at how the EFF, or rather the current MP, Bongo, when he was charged, You remember the first person he accused? He said, this is the work of Pravin Gordhan. So it's quite interesting. You know, this is a political game, unfortunately affecting the nation.
Absolutely, but the question is Pravin Gordhan untouchable?
Well, yeah. If you speak to some people, they'll tell you about the influence that Minister Pravin Gordhan holds within the higher echelons of the ANC. Because if you look within the broader spectrum of the party and the outcomes of the NESREC conference, look at where he was on the list, and then also look at the MP list and ANC branches voting on members of parliament or members that will be going to parliament. Look at how low he was in terms of that score. So it tells you that within the broader spectrum of the ANC membership that he might not be that popular, but right up there, he wields a lot of power, I think.
And the other thing, when the president campaigned to be the president of the ANC, one of the key members of President Ramaphosa was Pravin Gordhan. So he was like the link in terms of the international people. So a person who was as important then can't just overnight
all of a sudden
be dispensed of just like that. So in a bigger political scheme of things and the global dynamics, he is quite key, and there's a lot of people that are trusting him. He's a former finance minister, so he knows all these people, and then the president is trying to kickstart the economy, and what if they say, well, he dumps you, we walk away? What happens to that investment? He's on an investment drive,
But
so
there's a lot here.
What does that tell us about who is actually in charge then of the economy? And if you're in charge of the economy, by extension, you're in charge of the country. So who is in charge?
Well, of course, as the minister responsible for public enterprises, you know, he wields enormous influence. And sometimes I wonder if Minister Gordhan hasn't become a political liability to the president. For instance, a case in point was when the public protector issued those reports against him. Instead of the president, you know, waiting for Minister Pravin Gordhan to interdict him from taking action, he went to court, if my memory serves me well. In other words, someone would argue that the president supported Minister Gordhan in his fight with the public protector, because the correct way, in my view, that he should have done was to wait for an interdict, to be interdicted from taking action, from firing him, for doing whatever. He didn't do that. Instead, he went to court, and then Mr. Gordhan also went to court against the public protector. I think that's when many people saw that it seems the president, you know, rather the minister, you know, has, you know, is liked by the president.
Just quickly on the influence of Minister Pravin Gordhan, do you remember when we still had the former President Jacob Zuma as the president of the country, and he recalled them, he recalled Mcebisi Jonas as well as Pravin Gordhan back to the country from an investment trip, an investment tour. What happened after that? Remember the meeting that took place between the top six, when the president said that he's going to get rid of Pravin Gordhan. For the first time, we saw the ANC top six breaking ranks and speaking out against an anticipated decision that the president was going to make. So it tells you that Minister Pravin Gordhan has always had this particular power, as well as the influence within the ANC, especially at the higher echelons.
Well, as you can hear, we are in great anticipation of what the president would say, and of course also waiting to see what the EFF is going to do. Will they be bundled out as they were in previous sessions of the State of the Nation address when there were disruptions, or will it all go peacefully? Not sure. They said when the president starts, we start. It was not only the presence of course, Pravin Gordhan, but also the presence of former President of the Republic, F.W. de Klerk, whose presence here has been confirmed by the Speaker of Parliament. So it's going to be a long night, one anticipates, and we'll be here to bring it all to you live and direct, blow by blow, here on SABC on our various platforms. We're going to take a break and we'll be back with you as we count down. It is now literally 55 minutes before the president gives us that particular speech. But of course, we have the band behind us, just trying to see what's happening in the space behind us. We can hear the music, and as always, we usually have, as we did this morning, the parliamentary choir was singing, the military band, we saw them trying to set up earlier as well. So all of that will play out, and we will of course have that ceremonial procession as the president and all the other dignitaries before him make their way to the National Assembly. And just to remind you who I'm with this afternoon, Zwandile Mbeche is the SABC's political editor, Vuyani Green is the SABC's parliamentary editor, and of course my colleague is Aldrin Sampier. And right now Judge Mogoeng, the Chief Justice, has now made his way up here. So he is ascending there on the red carpet, and this is of course when you know that we are now, you know, within touching distance of hearing the president speak.
And actually, Vuyani, we have to say that for the first time, I think, when you look at the judiciary currently, tensions are spilling over, and even publicly so. You had the Chief Justice speaking at the Nelson Mandela lecture, for instance, and he said that when interviewing judges or potential or candidates for the bench, you could sense that there are some judges that are being protected from the interrogation that will be coming from the panel. What's your take on this?
Well, just to answer your question, before I answer your question, speaking to a number of people within the legal fraternity, some they say that some of people who are capable, who are don't want to avail themselves because of the kinds of questions that they are subjected to during the JSC. As you might have seen those or witnessed those interview sessions, little is asked about their legal grasp of some of the issues. They are asked a number of issues about politics and all that sort of thing. And again, you'll find that I think it's because of the composition of the JSC, because the JSC is made up of politicians, of lawyers, of juries, etc. And of course, you can't deny politicians the right to ask those critical political questions. You can see that some of the candidates there are protected or shielded from scrutiny, and others are subjected to harsh scrutiny. Perhaps that's the advantage of a constitutional democracy.
Is it really? Because then Mogoeng asks in that speech, why is it being done? For whose vested interest are these people being protected?
Well, my sense is that the majority of South Africans, they've got a vested interest into who's appointed into the bench because of the enormous power and influence that the judiciary wields in our constitutional democracy. The sense that, I mean, we're no longer in a parliamentary sovereignty. It's the constitution that is supreme, so which means judges have got this power to declare invalid and unconstitutional any conduct or act. So these people, although they are unelected, they wield enormous power. That's why many people have got interest into who is appointed into the bench.
And Sakina, then you just suppose that to that letter, or rather the affidavit that the Deputy Judge President of the Western Cape Division sent to the JSC complaining about Judge President John Hlophe, and also complaining about the influence in appointing certain judges to adjudicate certain matters.
Well, you see, that issue, in my view, it's an issue that is going to test the credibility of our judiciary in the country. It's unprecedented, in my view. Yes, I understand the matter of Judge President John Hlophe with the Justice of the Constitutional Court has not been resolved. But this one, you've got the head of a division and his deputy at loggerheads. And the JSC, it seems to me, it's moving with snail's pace to address this matter. And that's why I'm saying that that's another challenge that is facing our Chief Justice Mogoeng, because he chairs the JSC.
Yeah.
He chairs the JSC. And the JSC, and in my view, the JSC, this is a question I've been asking, who is the JSC accountable to? The Constitution says the JSC is accountable to Parliament in terms of reports and all that. But since 1994, I haven't read any report of the JSC to this Parliament.
Yeah, even Stephen Friedman actually makes a similar argument in one of his Business Day articles, where he says that the judgments, for instance, that are handed down by judges, who gets to scrutinize them and ask them questions about how did you come to this particular finding?
Well, with regard to the judgments, you know, our judiciary is structured in a hierarchy.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the lowest court up to the Constitutional Court. So judges, or rather judgments of a lower court, they get reviewed by the higher court up to the Constitutional Court. Even in the Constitutional Court.
But that doesn't mean accountability, though.
Well, I think that it means accountability in the sense that you've got your peers reviewing your judgment.
Yeah.
And they can set it aside.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court of Appeal has set aside many judgments. The Constitutional Court has ruled in many cases where you'd see that it was not a majority decision. I remember a case where, for instance, the Chief Justice, wrote a minority dissenting judgment. So that's the checks and balances that are built in our judicial system. So and secondly, judgments of court, or rather of judges, they get criticized by law professors.
Yeah, Sakina.
This is, really such a rich discussion, even for people perhaps who are not even South African, who find themselves here on our shores on such a momentous occasion as SONA 2020, given all the challenges that we face as a nation here in South Africa. Our political editor, Mzwandile Mbeje, has exited stage left, but we have an able replacement for him in Alicia Ndlovu, who is from the University of Cape Town's political department, a lecturer there. Thanks so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
So we've been deliberating about, the state of the ANC, some of the work that Parliament has been engaged in, but the objective realities that we are faced with today here is, of course, high levels of unemployment, growing levels of inequality. We have an energy problem in this country, and it's a very serious problem, whereby I was reading an article earlier about a deal in the mining sector hinging on Eskom's ability to actually supply power. And then you have the Minister of Energy, Gwede Mantashe, at the mining Indaba telling the mines that they would actually be allowed to generate their own power. But how is that going to work? Where are all the checks and balances to make sure that all of this happens in a coordinated fashion? So there's lots to talk about. Where do you think the president should focus on tonight, first and foremost?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. There's a lot, but we know that it's been 25 years since the dawn of democracy in South Africa, and we are still dealing with the three evil sisters, poverty, unemployment, and inequality. And within that, there's a lot to unpack. Right now, I think unemployment is a big issue, and I think the president, in his last State of the Nation address, he did put that in his top 7 priorities. But now the unemployment rate is still increasing. So he needs to tell us what is going to happen, because the problem is, from these discussions and what you've said, the question becomes a democracy question. To what extent is democracy actually delivering what it's supposed to deliver? So it's a broader conversation about that system of governance and what it is able to do for our people. Because what we are seeing is our people vote, right, when the elections come, and then we sort of have to stick around and see what is going to happen. And then we wait again for a State of the Nation address, which, by the way, happens every single year.
Yeah.
So one thing we have to actually identify when we listen to the president is that he tells us about goals for a decade. He doesn't say this will be achieved within the next year. If you listen to him carefully, he says in the next decade, we also have the MDP for 2030. So what is he actually saying to you is that he can actually come back in the following year and say, listen, it's a plan for the decade. Listen, what is in the MDP is a plan for 2030. So then that puts us in an awkward position as citizens, because we can get an answer that these things take time. These are processes. Then we have to ask the question, so what does this mean, Mr. President? Because in about 10 years' time, you might not be here. In 2030, half the people that you see in Parliament today will not be here. So it will be, you know, sort of I call it a postponed form of accountability.
And how do you keep the president accountable? How do you keep the president accountable? You have, for instance, the EFF that is arguing that they're going to use today to try and hold the president accountable. Is the question and answer session enough? And even the Constitutional Court, for instance, has expressed itself on the mechanisms that are available to hold the president accountable. But are those mechanisms that are currently available to MPs enough to the satisfaction of those who have actually put them in power in those seats of the legislature?
I think listening to you, I mean, it's quite obvious that you are talking about a political party that has a majority, and therefore the MPs, you know, in that in our legislature at least, a majority of them form part of the ANC. Then the political question is, you know, how do you are the sitting government, right? We have to hold you into account. Yet, I think you guys, when I was listening to you, you were talking about when do we differentiate between the state and the party itself.
Yep.
It's the same thing. When someone is a member of the ANC and they're representing, what does it mean when we say that they have to call the president to account? They could have political ambitions. Maybe they want to be in the cabinet in the next 5 years. We don't know. What you're asking comes to the issue of differences in political institutions in different countries. We have a dominant party system, and usually that's just how it works, is that with a dominant political party system, even when it comes to how citizens are close to an MP in terms of how they can identify who represents them, it's very different when you go to a country that has a sort of majoritarian or presidential system, where, you know, they can deliberately point at a representative of their constituency and say, this is actually my MP. There is a distance between us and our MPs because there is a party, right? A political party in between.
That decides on who should be deployed.
So we point a finger at a political party, but we hardly point a finger at a specific person.
If I may just throw a spanner in the works, because Vuyani, you made a similar point earlier on when you spoke about perhaps having a more constituency-based system when getting our parliamentary representatives elected. So that is the system that we have. We still have a mixed system at local government level, but it is constituency-based as well. And the evidence suggests that even there we are unable to hold government accountable. So why would it change at parliamentary level?
Well, you're quite right, Sakina. I mean, case in point is the hung municipalities, if I may use that word, in Nelson Mandela Metropole as well as in Tshwane. We've seen what that system does at the local level of government. But perhaps voters should take the blame for this, because it's voters, it's the will of the voters that we see being expressed in Parliament in terms of the number of seats a particular party is able to garner and all that. I'm not sure whether we still have a dominant party system, because if you look at the ANC support, it's been declining. I think they got about 57 of votes. So I think for me, the ANC should not think that maybe within the next decade it will still be in power.
Let's speak about the opposition then, because then the opposition are in place, and the opposition also have a role to hold the president accountable. Are they actually playing that role to hold the president accountable?
Well, the opposition, certainly here in Parliament, it's playing that role. It's very robust. They're asking tough questions, especially, you know, many people, they see what takes place during plenaries, but the real work of Parliament takes place at committee levels. That's where accountability, oversight takes place. But sometimes we've noticed that ANC ministers, they're given a free pass. They are not asked tough questions. It's only members of opposition
because
parties
of the point that Alicia raised about the dominant system that we have in place, because you have a majority party and MPs who are able to protect a certain minister, and probably the discussions that happen behind the scenes. Because what's important, what we should note is that the executive, they are appointed from a party, the party being the ANC. But the same ANC also has members deployed to committees that are supposed to do oversight. Do we really expect of those members of committee to hold a member of their own party accountable, robustly so, in front of everyone without playing factional politics?
Interestingly, Eldrin, if I may answer your question, what we see as journalist observers in various portfolio committees, it's a dress rehearsal of what takes place behind closed doors.
Yes.
Because parties have got what is called, they've got their own caucuses.
Yeah.
And the minister, you find that the minister, political groups, the minister is part of that. By the time they go to a particular portfolio committee, they've already decided, caucus the issue, and they close ranks. So that's why I'm saying sometimes I think some of the problems, can be attributed to our electoral system. Perhaps it's not too late to change it, because we are only 25 in our democracy, and there are other democracies which are still grappling with some of these issues.
I would like to argue that that is somewhat reductionist, for the simple reason that it's easy to blame the system. It's easy to blame political parties for closing rank. It's easy to blame everybody but all of us in society, because as the media, we have to fall on our sword in terms of how much we have done to bring political education and civic awareness and civic education to the broader public, so that people know what their rights are, so that people know how the electoral system works, because we take this for granted, that people know when in fact they don't know. It's just a cursory example where you could go, and even anecdotally you will very easily be able to gauge that people don't actually know these things that we assume they should know in making decisions for the betterment of their own lives. So we all need to take accountability in that regard, because it doesn't matter how you tweak the system, for as long as people are unable to assert their rights, we're not going anywhere.
And how do you deal then with voter apathy? Because it is the voter themselves that decides that I don't want to be part of this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to wake up on the 7th of May to go and cast my ballot. I've done that so many times before, and not much has changed.
But why are they feeling that way? The apathy stems from the fact that they feel that they are not heard. Their material reality hasn't changed. So what's the point? I am literally wasting my time, wasting my energy going to cast a vote, because it makes no difference. Whereas people don't understand the power that they actually wield, the power that they hold. And some have argued that perhaps there is a concerted effort to actually keep people in the dark.
I mean, one could say that it does serve political parties if people do not accept themselves. Because with voting, and if people are interested, especially it's young people that are that are staying away from the ballot. I think that's what's actually said about it. It's that a majority of the people are young that are saying, you know what, we are staying away. But change can never occur without people coming out to vote in their numbers. So it's very, very important that citizens actually take that right and actually exercise it. Because only then can we have perhaps a new political party come into power.
Well, as you can see there, it's all happening now, and it is now just about half an hour, just over half an hour to go before the President delivers SONA 2020. And it's been a long while since we've had this level of anticipation, of expectation, and to some extent anxiety in waiting to hear the President speak, because we are on the precipice, one would think. It kind of feels that way. Even the mood here in Parliament, it's very different, having come here year after year after year for many years, over a decade. it just feels so different this time around. It's subdued, and this is what people are waiting to hear. How are things going to turn around for our country? Well, here with Aldrin Sempier, and of course we were joined by Alicia Ndlovu from the University of Cape Town's Political Studies Department. She's a lecturer in that department, and we are now joined by political analyst Ongama Mtinka. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we've been talking quite a lot about what to expect, and what are your expectations just off the bat, given what you've observed here around the parliamentary precinct today?
Sure. I think just to echo your sentiments there, it's a make or break speech for the president. The political mood is very tense, both within the ANC and outside, but also the sense of, a hope among South Africans. I think it's been tested beyond limit. We do want to get a sense that momentum is building in a positive direction. There's a lot of publicity around the various crises that are there in the country, especially around SOEs. But I think also there's a sense in which that focus on the SOE crisis is deflecting attention from the more longer term and more pronounced problems around economic and the socio-economic environment in which we find ourselves in. So I think the president should stop this thing around creating a message for rating agencies. We actually need to get a sense of what real change is happening. I was doing an exercise where I looked at the States of the Nation addresses of President Mandela in '95, President Mbeki in 2000, President Zuma in 2005, and then, Mbeki in 2005, Zuma 2010, and then his the second speech after year 2014. And it's interesting, so I was looking at words such as, how often does the word are, will, has, have, and shall come? It's interesting, from 2010, you see, you begin to see in the State of the Nation address, a more futuristic focus than one that's looking at what have or has been done. It's quite interesting.
Pause right there. Word transformation comes to mind, for example, and so many others. We'll come back and we'll talk to all of that, but we have to take a break. And welcome back to SONA 2020, and we are literally about 25 minutes away from the beginning of proceedings. Former President Thabo Mbeki, we saw him arrive a short while ago, and we are now getting to the business end of things here. And this discussion here in studio also, heating up, taking all sorts of directions, trying to hit as many touch points as we can in anticipation of what President Cyril Ramaphosa will be delivering in his SONA 2020 address. And then, of course, Aldrin St. Pierre is here with me, our analyst this evening, Ongama Mtimka, and, of course, Alicia Ndobu also with us. And before we went to that break, I spoke about transformation. And on the red carpet earlier, our colleague Samkele Maseko spoke to Peter Groenewald, and or was it Natasha? It doesn't matter. The point Peter Groenewald made was that BEE, affirmative action, failed. These are policies that we need to see the back of. And this speaks to the transformation agenda that has been slow and in some instances totally non-existent in many sectors. So what do we expect the president to say in this regard? Because the reality is that BEE, affirmative action, they have failed to transform the structure and transform things at the rudiments where we need to see the changes happen. So what's your take on that?
There are two approaches in terms of people who contribute to this debate about BEE. Some people come from the point of view that says they are failing, therefore you must scrap them. Others come from the point of view that says they are failing, so you need to tighten what it is about them that's actually resulting in the policies failing to achieve results. I'm more inclined to lean towards the latter, and I think the danger of people who criticize BEE and affirmative action without in fact declaring their intentions is that they mislead the society into thinking that they are for greater transformation when they are not. If you look at the position of the Democratic Alliance, it's very problematic in the assumption that it makes that transformation is not good as an end in itself. It only has an instrumental value to the extent that it helps alleviate poverty. So let me share with you how social capital works. So if one person who is black has had a tender, for example, the worst form of BEE, transformation, what it does is it opens up a new social network, their network, into having opportunities which otherwise were unheard of. And if you look at the integratedness of black communities, what it does is every black person who gets to be, for example, in my case, speak on national platforms, back home in Khuka location in Pedi, some kids are saying, wow, we never knew that somebody could do that. Now that Ongama is there, it's a career to dream of beyond the police, the teachers, and everything. So there's a value that is there which is greater than the numbers and the demographics that we can allocate to these things.
Aldrin, before you continue, just the visuals that we are viewing now, this is of the premiers who are now entering the House from the Eastern Cape, Oscar Mabuyane, the Free State, Sisi Ndombela, Gauteng Provinces, David Makura, KZN, Sihle Zigalala, Limpopo, Stan Tupu Matabata, Mpumalanga, Rifilwe Mtsweni, the Northern Cape, Premiers Dr. Zamani Sol, Northwest, Professor Job Mohoro, and from the Western Cape, Alan Windy. Those are the premiers as they make their way into the House.
And as we have the conversation around transformation, and now with the premiers walking in as well, a problem that I've had with the approach of the ANC is that, let's make an example of the Gauteng Education Department. Brilliant department, high-tech technology that is coming out, but that also then creates inequality. So within the ANC's own policies and how it goes about them enforcing its policies, it creates a level of inequality where the ANC in Gauteng is seen to be the better of the rest because the technology that they enjoy in Gauteng is not the same as being enjoyed in Limpopo. Take this a step further. Let's speak about investment. When there are these investment drives that take place, are these members of these various legislatures bidding for the investment to actually come to their province? Or is there somebody in charge who decides that, okay, this investment will go there, this investment will go there, this investment? Because it can't be that the Northwest is still a rural province when we say that it has the largest deposit of platinum. Alicia?
Yeah, I think you're raising important issues there in terms of the responsibility of our central government, and that to this day we cannot have Durban, Cape Town, Johannesburg, Pretoria as the key cities where you see, because it brings problems as well in terms of urban spaces. People have to now migrate from the northwest, from Limpopo. If you're a graduate at the University of Limpopo, where are you looking to go? You just want to take the bus and go straight to Johannesburg, which is closer. Cape Town maybe a little bit far, but it speaks to those issues. I mean, in terms of how are we going to extend beyond that? And I think the president mentioned it actually last year in his State of the Nation address, saying that we cannot just have those city centers only. We need, in fact, in the last 25 years, there hasn't been a new city built in this country. So what are we going to do? Are we still going to rely in these densely populated places and then have to deal with issues of urban migration, which then bring certain strains on the transportation system, which is sometimes not as efficient? So there's a lot that's really going on. So you find people living 100 kilometers away from their workplaces. People don't earn enough. They are spending like 60% of their salary on transport. So it's a ripple effect that is unfair to the poor of the poorest.
And even the debate within the ANC, isn't the ANC having this debate that says that, comrades, there's money that's being sent to this province to for instance, with health. A child is born in Lipalale. That child uses the clinic, a clinic that is being serviced by the province, because the money would then be allocated to the province. That child goes to a school that's being taken care of by a province's budget. This child has now a fully cognitive function that works, but this child now leaves all of that investment that has been invested in his future and now becomes a pioneer in Gauteng.
It is an issue of transformation. Maybe you might come in.
Part of it has to do with apartheid geography, in the sense that there was a deliberate intention by the apartheid government not to spread investments evenly up until it became a problem and influx control was uncontrollable, and they started those ill-fated decentralization campaigns. But quite interesting on the investment story is that even when you look at private investment, reports on venture capital and financing businesses that are starting up are looking at are showing that investment is concentrated Cape Town, Gauteng, sort of Western Cape, Gauteng, as well as KZN. The other